Hi, good evening, all. How are we doing today?
Good evening. How are you? I'm well.
Okay, good, good. Okay, we're just gonna give everybody else a few minutes and then we'll start, okay?
Okay.
Okay, great.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, guys. How are we doing today? Okay,
Thank
I'll
you.
assume that the
Good.
silence means well. Okay, good. I get some response. Go ahead. How are we doing?
We're good.
Okay, excellent, excellent. I hope that everybody's having a productive week. I know it's very tough to work from 9 to 5 and then come to class from 6 to 9. So of course we're gonna stop at 8:30, and if we could stop before and you can go and do your classwork, that'll even be better. So I
I've
know
been trying to do the
by
homework.
7:30 be hungry, right? We want to get home and eat. Right? So we stop retaining. So I'm going to try to be as brief as possible. And then I don't also want to give you information overload because, again, this is very comprehensive. And I want you to get the most important parts. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So, newspaper, anybody at getting their 5%? Any newspaper clippings? What's happening in the news this week?
I
Anybody?
read the newspaper, this Cassandra.
Oh, excellent, Sandra. Go ahead and share with us, please.
I mean, it's a little old. It's from February 22nd, before class started, but I still wanted to share.
Yes, please go ahead.
So compliance is not checking boxes. Um, there was an article on Eyewitness News by Derek Smith Jr. Basically the conclusion of it, I can read it for you guys, is that he conducted an internal audit, and his auditing journey, along with the traveling to conferences and interacting with regional and international risk and compliance professionals, he has highlighted that a one-size-fits-all approach in regards to institutions' approach to client onboarding and monitoring is not an equation for disaster and unwanted efficiencies. So throughout the article, it's about 3 pages. He talked to students at Eugene DePucci Law School and got their view on compliance, basically, and why it's important. He talked about the FAFTA 40 recommendations and things like that.
Okay, very, very good, Cassandra. And was that some of the things we talked about in intro? Was it familiar? Did you understand the language? When he said FATF 40 recommendations, you knew exactly what he was speaking of?
Yes.
Okay, very good. And see, and this is why we want to, pay attention and retain this information, because a lot of times we need to, or we should be, if we're in compliance, disseminate that information throughout the organization. So you first have to be fully trained and pay attention and be able to identify, the various acronyms and what they mean, and where to go to do research. So very good. There is no one size fits all approach. There is no let me borrow, because there's a lot of sharing of information. People, when they work at banks, before they leave, they walk out with all the policy and procedure and they start their own bank. Okay, but you can't just take that information and copy it. You have to tailor it to your institution. You have to tailor it to the services and products that you offer. I've seen persons, copy a risk rating and book. That's a risk rating for 3 different banks, but it is not applicable because some of the products and services are not even offered. And then after they would have copied that, then they don't even update. And remember, we talked about where we get the updates from. So they don't understand the methodology. Okay, so not a one size fits all approach, and the methodology, understanding, what makes this form work, or how do we generate this rating. Okay, so excellent, excellent, Cassandra. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else?
This is Nikisha. I don't have a paper in front of me, but I was on the Zoom call today with the Ministry of Financial Services and just heard some more about the actual legislation with respect to digital assets.
Okay,
So I thought
excellent.
that was actually very interesting, knowing that we're
Okay,
going in the right direction, considering that FATF is now also putting out guidance with respect to money laundering via virtual assets.
okay. So Nikisha, this is for your 5%.
It could be.
Yes. Okay. So tell us what it's about for those who weren't able to make it.
So the acronym is called DARE, and it reminds me, actually, I don't know if anybody's old enough to remember the drug program that was under the same acronym, but
Can
just
you speak
making.
up a little bit? We can't hear you, or perhaps I need to get a speaker. Hey. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll turn up my mic as well.
Yeah, please.
So there is now a Digital Assets and Registered Exchanges Bill which is called DARE for short. So I was saying, I don't know if anybody is old enough to remember, but I remember DARE reminds me of the drug campaign that used to be a long time back. But what it is now is providing a legal framework to regulate the issuance and sale of digital assets, crypto assets and digital tokens. And so I was also reading on the FATF website that they just had a plenary that's now going to release some guidance with respect to money laundering via virtual assets. So now that we're at least thinking about the same things from a global perspective and could address the same accordingly.
Bye.
Sorry, somebody else was speaking? Lakeisha?
No, I think that was someone who came in the
Oh, okay.
background.
Could
Yeah.
everybody else mute their mics, please, so we don't get the feedback? Okay, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that I think it's good that we've actually done that because I also saw on the FATF website that there's also going to be some guidance issued with respect to money laundering via virtual assets.
Of course, of course. And in the ICA book, one of the questions that, and I think I said this last week, was, are we as compliance changes very, very fast? Are we even up to speed with debit cards and what have you?
Exactly,
and
exactly.
You know, what controls need to be put in place to ensure we mitigate risks with debit cards, and then online purchasing, online banking. With this new currency, again, it's, we know that the initiative is from the central bank to ensure that we are not seen as cash intensive when our risk rating is completed. So this is something that we need to support. Digital currency, do any of us understand it? No? Okay, is somebody gonna give you the information? Okay, right. Because of course, every time there's a new initiative, it's gonna fall on the compliance department. Go out there, find out, come back, and train the entire institution. Okay, so let's be proactive. The Securities Commission has a fintech hub where they're storing all the legislation and all the new information regarding digital currencies.
Right, I mentioned that on the call, on the Zoom call today as well, the new
Right.
hub.
So
Yeah.
I would recommend, remember, one of the things I ask is that you follow your regulator. So even if your regulator is I get feedback, Leslie. Yeah. So if there's no speaker, no, to make it louder. Okay. Yeah. So even if your regulator is the central bank or the insurance commission, you want to ensure that you are familiar with that fintech hub. Okay. That's very important, and you want to follow that. Crowdfunding, everybody is familiar with GoFundMe, right? And we are in some problems right now with GoFundMe because what was the name of the group? Head Notes.
Yeah,
Right.
Head Notes.
One of the requirements for GoFundMe was that you're an American citizen so they could get their taxes. The same thing that we're talking about today, right? And so I think one of the principles of Head Notes had moved to America and had applied for citizenship but had not gotten it as yet. And she established the GoFundMe page. I mean, for Hurricane, I think Joaquin
Yes,
or
yeah.
Matthew, one of those, right? Right. And so we are now getting negative feedback because, again, the NPO legislation wasn't in place when she did that, as well as she was not an American at the time, and one of the requirements. And so the money has been on hold now for 2 or 3 years. We've had another hurricane since then. 2 hurricanes, and right. So, and the money is still on hold. Okay. So just as the laws were coming out, we have negative media that tells the international arena that the Bahamas isn't doing what they are supposed to do, and they're trying to defraud the system. Okay. And so, of course, we have our own GoFundMe now. It's called it's under crowdfunding. It's what you call I guess that's the term. It's called crowdfunding, where a lot of people just make a donation to a cause or a purpose. And so that platform is now being administered by Alive. right? And so now Alive has to be fully compliant and ensure that they have all policies and procedures in the MLRO and what have you in on staff to ensure that they mitigate any risks that may come out of persons making those deposits or donations. Okay, and so again, all of that is on that fintech page, and so like I said, follow it, and so you keep abreast of what's going on. And when our institution comes and said, okay, today, Leslie, we are going to start accepting digital currency, the sand dollar. We don't want Leslie to stand up and say, I got to fight that because nobody's trained. We don't know what it is. We don't know what to do. That's what has happened, right? Right. So Leslie is going to be proactive and he's going to follow and find out and see what the laws say now so he could be fully prepared when he gets in these positions to say, okay, fine. These are the controls that we need to have in place. This is who the regulator is. And fine, we can safely accept sand dollar. That's sand dollar payments, right? Okay, good. So don't be left behind because we have to keep up. This is a new norm. Online is the way right now. Technology is the way. It's ever changing. But we have to know what type of dangers we are susceptible to and ensure that we have proper controls in place and then ensure that we are educated, and know what sometimes we don't even get the memo where they ask us, they tell us new product and service, their bill. I mean, they learn what the their bill is and we accept in sunflower, and then what you do? You scramble trying to find out, how to protect. And of course, if you don't have the proper controls in place, you are to ensure that the institution remains compliant, right? So it falls on you. Okay, so please don't be left behind. Okay. Okay, thank you so much. Very good.
You're
Anybody
welcome.
else want to share?
Yes.
Sit down.
Okay. Yeah. And this is
Okay.
what I told my other classes the other day. When we come to if we come into class, we're not at home, and so the children don't see us, and the husbands don't see us, or the wives don't see us, so they don't have an expectation of us. So we now have to train our families to say, if I was not here, would you truly be able to call on me? Would somebody else not be responsible to watch you? So
I'm
we have
sorry
to
about
find
that, Miss Bullard.
yeah, no problem. But we just have to find a quiet space, an uninterrupted space within our homes, and try to get our families to be knowledgeable. Mommy has to work from home now. It's a bit, difficult. I know. I've had some people say, "Hold on, Miss Bullard, I gotta answer the door," or "Hold on, Miss Bullard, I have to answer the phone." No, there should be no answering the phone. There should be no answering the door. I mean, things do happen, but we want to try as we go through the course. It's 10 weeks. By week 5, we want to ensure that we have an uninterrupted space as best as we could. But we do understand when you're home with the children and they expect you to, pay attention to them and they don't understand that you are in class. So try to, educate your families to support you. Nobody's here for free, right? This could have been a trip to Miami, a new bag, a down payment on a car, some new clothes,
But
right?
guess what? Guess what, Miss Bullard? To go to Miami now, we need more money than that.
But this could have been we are safe, we are safe, we are safe. This a Japanese car, we can purchase. Okay, so my
That's
whole
true.
point is that everybody made an investment. So I want you to get 100% of your investment, okay? So no
Yeah.
texting, so turn your cell phones off. All those messages will be there. When class out, those people go wait and they can still take your call if you say I was in class and they'll understand. Okay, so get the most of your investment, please. Get your full amount uninterrupted. Okay. Okay, good.
Okay.
Sorry. So I think it was Renelle who wanted to
Yes.
share.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, Renelle.
Okay, so on Monday, I attended the Rotaract Club of Nassau Sunset meeting. This month is Water and Sanitation Month there, and it's focusing on environmental impact of waste disposal. Their guest speaker was Dr. Bentley Higgs. Now, I wasn't able to take notes how I wanted to because I had to take the call while I was on the road. But his topic was landfills 101. He discussed the different type of landfills, the byproducts that are created from these landfills and the components used in it, and how it affects the environment. So for example, like our dump, before they made all of the changes, everybody would just take their trash and carry it to the dump. And there was no like real proper procedures in place of where to dump certain items. So they just tossed it anywhere and left it there. And it became very harmful to the environment and the gases that are released in the air, and can make our nature, animals, and human beings sick. And how it affected the burning of the dump to try to get rid of the waste and, it affecting the air that we breathe and we inhale in that and whatnot. So the main goal for the dump is to actually promote more of recycling and reuse. So instead of taking your garbage and dumping it, try to recycle and reuse your everyday products. For example, like vegetable and fruit scraps, instead of tossing it in your regular garbage bin, you can use a compost bin, boxes and other materials that can be used again. Try and use them around the house instead of the garbage people having to pick them up and creating more waste on the dump. He actually showed us pictures of how the dump used to be when it was filled with garbage all over the ground and how it actually is now, and it looks really good. And I must say I'm very proud of what they're doing there. Some persons were actually able to go on a tour of the dump, see all of the changes that were made. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So let's all try to recycle and reuse to protect our environment and ourselves.
Okay, Renelle, that's an excellent topic that a lot of us don't pay attention to. And for the entrepreneurs in the room, I want you all to know that the dump is a multi-million-dollar, what should I say, organization, or you can make billions of dollars from the dump. And just like you said, we use vegetables, all of that can turn into fertilizers, the plastics. There's so much money that can be made. The tires, or all those things are reusable, but there's no company that, if you go all around America and all around Europe, you see that they have the 3 or 4 different garbage bins, and that way you get that public to help you sort through, and that, when you take it back to your company to sort, it's less work to be done. And then there's also phosphorus that comes from the, or is it phosphorus or phosphate? I don't know, y'all have to Google it, but it's used in hospitals, and it's recycled. It comes from recycled garbage, and it's made from the dump. So there are billions of dollars. And then if you clean up after, a lot of people volunteer to clean up after hurricanes, or go clean person's yard. That's how they make, what do you call it? The stuff that they sell in the bag that's very expensive. Mulch. Yes, and fertilizer. So billions. Compost, right? So those of you who are entrepreneurs, there aren't any jobs. You can't just sit at home and wait to be hired. Do a needs assessment.
I think, hi. Oh, sorry, someone's talking.
Yeah, right. So they did privatize it, and something happened. It didn't work out. I think that's when Renard Wells, so that's his name, Renwood Wells. Yeah, he was that LOI, the agreement fell through the cracks, all of that. So yeah, so all of that didn't work out. So I don't know who's in charge of it now. Obviously somebody is, because it's a way better state than it was. But there's still a lot of opportunities out there. So please, whilst we're home and we're unemployed, do a needs assessment. And see what we need. Excellent. Y'all never went to the nursery, eh? I am banned from the nursery now, but every time I go, I pay. By the time I reach the cash register, it's $300. So I'm not allowed to go to the nursery and buy my plants and do all of this anymore. If I say I go for one thing, $300. I have to leave my whole bag in the car. Yeah, and the food because the mulch and all these different things that beautify your yard is very expensive. All from the garbage. Okay, so like I say, do a needs assessment, see what your country needs, and then become an entrepreneur. You could still work from 9 to 5. This could be a side, job. I always encourage persons to need at least 5 revenue streams because everything is seasonal. And when one thing doesn't work, you pick up another. You don't just sit home and worry and be sad. There's nobody gonna come and help you and take care of you. We are not Ben Laden, and we don't have that strong network, right? So we have to work. So think of 5 things that you could do outside of your 9 to 5 to bring income into your home. Okay? Nothing, yeah, nothing in life easy. Anything worth having, you have to work very hard for. It is hard. It ain't easy. Yeah. Like that's what I say. Working from 9 to 5 and then coming to class, that's hard. Because when you reach home, some child is waiting, or a husband or a wife is waiting. But that's very hard. But you have, you see the benefits of being here, right? That's why you spend your money to get a return. So that's why I think it's the most of your return. And sometimes it just takes a conversation. Hon, please live with the kids or cook. I go to school every Thursday. Every Thursdays for 10 weeks, I need you to cook. Or or even at your jobs, every Thursday, I need to get off at 4 o'clock. The last employer where I was working, I told them, I can't wait. I teach on Thursdays. There's no way I could be in Life-Lucky, fight the traffic, be overwhelmed, and and they said, okay, we can't give you the whole day off, but we'll let you get off at 3. I said, excellent. So somebody else said, have the full day off. It's just you have not because you ask not. So ask, and you never know. Right, and a lot of works are working with flexi time, and they could give it to you as a benefit if you are looking for some benefits for the staff. An extra hour on the day I go to school would really, really help. So I'm not late. I'm not rushed. I'm not overwhelmed when I reach. I have time to digest all of Miss Bullet talking and hold some of it,
Thomas Bullet, I
it
agree
helps.
with you. And I had something to contribute from that seminar you sent us.
Go ahead.
I don't know
I'm
if
so happy and pleased that some of you attended. Very good.
I don't know if anyone referred to it earlier, but I was very proud of the Bahamian talent that was represented at the seminar today.
Okay.
I was smiling on the inside. It was very nice. I don't know if it was mentioned already about I think the website is CBA Hub, Caribbean Blockchain Alliance. You can let me know if it's been mentioned. But that was towards the end of the presentation, which is a NGO in the Caribbean region, which is dedicated to educating software developers so they can build their own blockchain projects. So we've already seen a few popped up in our country, but that doesn't mean that has to be the be all and the end all, because in various regions, there is not just one. There are multiple ones that people use to get their business done, and they're all making money.
Correct. And this is why I say, go and do a needs assessment. See what other countries are doing. We always copy with Luxembourg, Cayman, and the Netherlands do. Okay, so whatever they have in place, we can have it in a few years. In fact, there was one case, and I'm sure I told you or somebody this, where somebody won a case because the Bahamas had copied and pasted law from the Netherlands and didn't change the name from the Netherlands to Bahamas, and that person won their case. Okay, that was years and years ago. Okay, so do a needs assessment, compare it to what's out there already, and you'll be surprised how you can become an entrepreneur. Okay, because one of those 5 in revenue streams that I'm referring to, one has to be an essential service in case we ever have a pandemic again, and one has to be online because that's the new norm. Okay, everything is online. Okay, so the other 3, you work it out. But in your spare time, use your time wisely, and as a person, and I guess set your goals, write your vision. Where there's no vision, the people perish. All of that is very important. Okay, write your vision, and get your network together, and get together with like-minded people who are interested in the same things that you are interested in, because we need future leaders. We can't have these same players for 40 years. We complaining about them, but there was nobody to replace Donald Trump. He was the only person in the entire Republican Party who could have been president, right? And they want him to run it in 2024. Isn't that ludicrous? Okay, so it's unfair. So therefore, if he could do it, we could do it. Okay, and at least we're gonna have the ethics, and we're gonna have the common day knowledge. Not the same principles and procedures from 1940 that don't work and are no longer effective. Okay, so y'all get together, and in fact, I'm saying this just on that symphony, on that you said you were very impressed on that presentation. Was Brian Jones on that presentation?
Ryan Jones?
Brian Jones.
I'm not too certain, but I think it was a Mr. Bridgewater and a Mr. Justin Cancino.
Brian
And then
Jones, yeah, he was
I probably didn't come in at that point.
Okay, so Brian Jones started when I was a telesupervisor at Finco, Robinson Road. Brian Jones was one of my tellers.
Oh, wow.
Okay? Okay, and he did a double major. He went to college, got his degrees, did a double major, came back and he worked a few places, and then he worked at Delta.
Wow.
The only reason he left was because the son was in charge of the department he was in, so there was nowhere for him to go. And now he is at Leno as a partner. Okay, so I'm
Leno Bahamas.
Sorry?
Leno Bahamas.
Yeah, so I'm very proud of him. And he, like I said, he started from the bottom. Now he is at the top of his own company. Okay, so
what did he major in?
Sorry?
What did he major in?
It has to be finance. I can't tell you exactly what it was, but he was with me for 1 year, and afterwards I said, Brian, I could see it was him and another guy, Lamont. I said, I can see this is just experience for you. I said, one day you'll be my boss, because I have to treat you good. And look at where he's at. He's a partner now at Leno. Okay, so that's where it starts. So don't worry where you are. You may say, oh, I'm just customer service, or I'm on the teller lineup or whatever. No, he got educated, and he pushed, and he increased his network. Okay, and he hung around with the right people. Okay, so it's definitely achievable, and he's very, very smart.
Miss Bullard.
Yes.
Sorry, the name you're calling, this is Donna. Sorry, good night, by the way.
Good night, Donna.
You're calling this Brian Jones. Yes, he was, he's listed on, I'm looking at the flyer now. I also attended the seminar.
Okay, very good.
Brian Jones, he's listed on the flyer. He's the Managing Director of Wealth Solutions for Leno.
Yes.
So he was part of the panel.
Yes, yeah. And like I said, he started off as a teller, and he climbed all the way up. Sorry?
Oh, sorry.
This seminar was online. It was online. Yeah, so Donna, you want to... Yeah, I emailed it to you. Donna, you want to give your 5 cents on the seminar so you can get your points, or you're going to attend something else?
The first person that spoke, she covered pretty much a lot of what I observed as well. But like Symphony said, I was really impressed, because when they spoke about young people as young as 21, 22, 23, already have their accounts and everything set up, and they're doing trading. At that age, I wasn't thinking about that sort of stuff.
Okay.
So like Symphony said,
it's not too late, Donna. It's not too late.
Yeah, so now I'm one of the old heads now trying to catch up.
Okay, yeah, but that's fine. It's never too late.
Yeah, but most of what the seminar was about, they covered it. So I could probably speak on something at another time.
Okay, so I taken away your 5%, and when you attend Rotary or what have you, we get something from you. Okay, very good.
I have something lined up next week.
Okay, excellent. And like I said, it really and truly pays off. Okay, I hope everything that you all attend, you all find it beneficial. Some will be boring, some will put you all to sleep, but for the most part, persons were able to join groups and they found it very beneficial. Okay? Okay, very good.
I'm listening to the seminar, and this is also the 5 points.
Okay.
I listened to the seminar last night on credit bureau.
Oh, okay, excellent.
One put on by sorority,
Oh.
for fraternity. I don't know, I'm glad this one, also Catholic sorority.
Mhm.
Yeah. Listen, also Catholic sorority, incorporated, you know. And they had this guest speaker on this, Mr. Neil, who's an Italian gentleman who is, heading off the onboarding of this credit bureau.
Okay.
Bahamas along with, Karen Rose.
Okay. And she is the deputy inspector at the central bank. Mhm. Okay.
This is very interesting.
Okay, it hasn't started yet. It hasn't been rolled out.
It's supposed to be rolled out by the end of June, and people were asking if it's on target. People were asked, some of the questions were really like, people wanted to know who will have access to this information.
Mhm.
And, you know, he was explaining that not everybody has access to it, financial
Institutions.
insurance
Are
companies.
they gonna include the utilities?
He did include.
Oh,
utilities,
Lord.
water and
Your
sewage.
please pay BC and water and sewage. And right, and when you hear this, she's saying at the end of June, hopefully this pandemic ends tomorrow, and
People asked about the
yeah,
pandemic.
right.
He said they will be covering for the last 3 years, which your credit is 3 years,
Oh,
for the
Jesus.
last 3 years.
Okay,
And
so
somebody asked if they don't have a credit history, like if they don't want a credit card, they don't want.
right.
So he was saying that he suggests that they would only get a credit card because you're gonna need some type of credit history in order to qualify for any type
But
of.
I am very confused about that because when they first talked about it, they said it wasn't going to be retroactive. So how is it they're looking at the history for the last 3 years? If it's not retroactive, that means it starts today. Right, and so that I told everybody it was supposed to come out in December, so I said, you all take your Christmas bonus and pay all your bills. Because once they roll it out, you want to go in with the highest score. You don't want to start off already having a bad score. So I say, don't let Christmas fool you. And you know, so that means it is retroactive then.
No, he did mention.
Utilities like BC and what have you.
People get the deduction from salary.
Salary deductions. Furniture plus, right? Okay, yeah. It was the utilities that were in question whether or not they was going to put BC and water and sewage.
But I mean, if you really think about it, right? If the credit bureau is coming on, I think that's what it's called, yes?
Yes.
If the credit bureau is coming on and they're not going to be it's not going to be retroactive, meaning they're not going to go back any further than where they are starting, then what really is their purpose at that point? You have to have something to build on. So they have to, even if they go back a year, and I think they're not going to go back a year because of COVID, but they have to have something to build on for you to have a starting point as to, okay, this is where you are, and this is what you need to work on to figure out, okay, how do I make my score better?
Okay, yes, Godette, you're very right. Miss Bullet just trying to find a way out. That's all. You know, I'm just trying to say, at least give persons the opportunity, or say, you know, make sure all your payments are up to date. Make sure you, you know, because sometimes people just don't take it, or many, you know, there's a minimum wage problem here in the Bahamas. You know, our minimum wage is way below standard, and then years ago, you know, central bank came in with the debt service ratio, and people have still not caught. I mean, that was years ago, probably from 1999. So that's what 20 years of the debt service ratio. People had 20-year loans back then on mortgages that were outside of the debt service ratio, right? That 45%. So I think we need, I don't know, some credit repair. I hope they have that option as well. You know, I think a lot of persons are gonna need some help, because at one point I worked in the loans department at Commonwealth Bank, and everybody know how easy it is to get a loan from Commonwealth Bank. So they You know, those people are gonna need some help.
I didn't quite understand about the scoring, like, you know, in the United States, 50 is a
For, right.
I didn't.
No, 850 is the, no, yeah, because 850 is the max I think you could get. Yeah, or Equifax or whatever. There's a few of them.
Did anyone ask about them, about people, businesses accessing the credit score?
No, I don't think it, no, because there has to be.
Only.
Anyone that's gonna hire you has the right to know your credit score.
No, I don't think they're gonna use it, but it's probably gonna be tied to your national insurance and they're gonna run it and they're gonna be privy to some information. But of course, you will have to sign a consent letter when you walk into an institution. They'll ask you, because that's what happens in America. They ask you, do we have the right to run your credit? And you say yay or nay. You know, that's when you give the dare, John. Okay, let me just tell you this about my credit before you run it. You know, so you give them consent. And then in the States, Equifax just was hacked. And so they had to pay some $1 billion out to their clients because all the data was stolen. And so I think they had billions of customers, and then the court allowed them to give everybody $125, which was billions of, turned into $1 billion plus. Yeah, it was a very large sum. Okay, so at least, again, be aware and know upfront how it's going to affect you, and, you know, be ready to argue that you was affected by the pandemic. For us who could need some help.
Ms. Bullard,
Yes, go ahead.
but this credit score thing, I am really, really concerned about how this is going to affect our people, because I also worked as a lender for a few years. And basically, one of the biggest issues we have as a country is that Bahamians do not save. And some of the small frivolous things that people come into the bank to borrow for, I mean, it's ridiculous. Like I had customers would come in literally every year and a half to borrow for simple, small stuff. I mean, people moving into apartment, they borrow a couple of thousands of dollars, something like that. You can save over a period of time, like that sort of thing. But I'm really concerned because for persons not being able to come back into the banks because their credit is an issue or whatever, I think it's going to have a great effect on our people, because we are so used to walking into the bank and borrowing for anything. And I don't know, we probably, as a country, I saw there was a ad running somewhere about gambling addiction. They were having some sort of seminar, I think, or webinar on gambling addiction. I think as a country, there's so much healing that we need to do from borrowing. I mean, because
yeah, but they are very hard on the gaming board, and they have to be socially responsible. I think the banks need to be socially responsible. I think there should be what do you call the people who give you credit advice and say, listen, do you need this $1,000 financial coaches or what have you?
Yeah.
There isn't enough literacy out there to tell people, you know, about revolving debt and these credit cards that your grandchildren will end up paying for you. And so just as stringent as the gaming board is on the web shops, they need the same thing, a counseling or a literacy out there on how much you borrow.
Yeah. Because
I'm willing to give all the and they go, I need this money.
Yeah, but if you're willing to listen, it has to be a requirement. It has to be mandatory, because that's what it is at the web shop. If you get to a certain, everybody has a limit. When you get over that limit, it's mandatory that you go to counseling. If you still they're saying, please just take this $10, and yeah, you have to, it's mandatory. So they have to make some of these things mandatory. You know, it's not going to be an easy fix. So hopefully when they do roll it out and see that the masses, you know, they don't have the information yet, but I'm certain when that information starts to trickle in and they see where the economy is at large, they're going to have to do something to help. You know, because it's going to be the masses. It'll be a few of Leslie them who have everything, all their ducks in a row. You know, all of Miss Bullet them to be in the masses. So they got to do something that help us out, and hopefully, you know, we'll go from that.
Ms. Bullitt, what are the financial institutions going to do now that they cannot lend money?
Of course, these ridiculous targets that they set every year, and then people are in fear. They are in so much fear that they steal in order to meet these ridiculous targets. And I don't know if I told you all the story about one Fortune 500 bank, one of the big Canadian banks who was supposed to be very conservative, ridiculous targets, and they give, one bank gives, Royal Bank gives you a cruise if you have the highest sales. Another one gives you money if you have the highest sales. And they have this big AGM meeting every year, big party over Paradise Island. Everybody is dressed up. No, there's only 3 big Canadian banks. You'll figure out which one it is. So Miss Bullitt, don't get arrested. It's right here in Nassau. No, right here in Nassau. And so here it is. We were the auditors, external auditors, so they invited us to their big grand party. We had steaks and wine, and it was very nice, a live band. We danced every song. But then when we sat down, they said, okay, the winner of our sales is the person from the Freeport branch. Yeah, but the targets are not achievable. You are supposed to write SMART goals. That same year, Royal Bank had let 130 account managers go because they did not meet their targets. Okay, so tell me now, how is it possible? Nobody in Nassau met their target, but the person in Freeport won? How? Everybody, I mean, it was a loud gasp when they said the person from Freeport. We said, what? The next day? Okay, for the last 20 years, who never meet a target ever, right? All the targets were ridiculous. Okay? The next day, we say, we have the audit. When we got there, the internal audit department had already had 50 emails from staff members who complained, who were like the person who came second and third, who said, absolutely no way possible. The economy is not in shape, but this is what the target is just giving us information. We didn't even have to do an investigation. Okay? And what we found is that persons were opening up accounts, and like Leslie came in just for a credit card increase. You don't get up no points from a credit card increase. So we can say, we give you a no credit card. You look at the system, Leslie had 5 different credit cards. Okay, then they give a line of credit. Let's give him a line of credit. Let's give him a loan. All sorts of products and services that he doesn't even know he has. And before the first payment comes around, they close him out. By that time, the points would have already been accrued. And that's what that person was doing. Okay? That person resigned, and the 5 other people in the department was let go. But guess what? The next bank who had just let 134 people go because of targets hired her as the top salesperson. Okay, so the saga continues, right? I don't know what happened after that, but we just laughed. We said, okay. Okay, so please ensure that if you're in these departments, that your manager sets SMART goals and they are achievable. And a part of them being achievable is you look at the economy, you see who's your target market. Right now in 2020, all the forecasts came out in January, right? Everybody must bring in $2 million worth of sales. By March, that had to be changed. There was no way possible for it to happen, okay? But some people, their managers didn't call them and say, okay, guys, we gotta switch this. No, as far as they was concerned, this was the, the bottom line. I have somebody now in my other class who say he working in collections. I say, listen, y'all need to get together and become business savvy right now and think outside the box and see when people couldn't pay, what do you do? If there's some investment vehicle or something you could put this delinquency in, but there's no use you calling people on the phone and saying, please make a payment when they are unemployed. There's no use. Okay, so we are only trained to, this what the procedure say, that's what the manual say, that's what you do. No, we need thinkers, we need people who are innovative, we need people that can come up with solutions. Okay, if you really want to be effective, that you be innovative. We don't need the same person who could say, your loan payment due today, we can repossess your house. Okay, Royal Bank had 700, and this was 2 years ago before the pandemic. They had a whole supplement in the Guardian or the Tribune, 700 houses. You think it represents everybody? Will the bank still not fail because nobody pay it? It ain't profitable. Scotia Bank had to let the people stay in the house till they get it sold because all the houses were becoming dilapidated. And so that's a loss. That's a loss, right? Okay, so right. So think outside the box. We don't need the average worker to show up and read the manual and say, this is what the manual say. Press enter, press C. And that's it. We need people who are gonna be thinkers.
Ms. Bullard.
Yes. Yes.
Someone told me, I heard Commonwealth Bank is being innovative. Commonwealth
Okay.
Bank, they are calling in their delinquent customers and they're telling them that they're forgiving some of the debt. But when they go in, they offer them consolidation and more money. I mean, which in a way is kind of a little trapsy.
Yeah, they shouldn't.
Went in thinking
Yeah,
that
they shouldn't offer them more money, but the full payments. I mean, what could you do? These banks Royal Bank been around. I used to work at Royal Bank for 16 years, so I always talk about Royal Bank. Royal Bank been around from what? They are 100 years from 1908. 100 plus years. You could tell me for 5 years, they can like consolidate or defer or do something. They already made billions of the economy. Okay, and Commonwealth Bank is the bank for Bahamians. I also teach customer service and marketing, and we go out and we do a survey on the various banks, and we see that even though Royal Bank been around for 108 years and Scotia 60 plus years, we see that Island contribute the most. Commonwealth Bank contributes the most to the economy. So you would find those institutions, hey, these are people. We don't exist anywhere else in the world. So if we don't make money here, we get shut down. So if these people, we have a relationship with them for 30 years, if they can't pay for 5, that's okay. It ain't okay when they can't pay for 25 years, then you have a problem. But if they can't pay for 5, you could work something out. But people don't think that way. They don't have the business minds. And again, the heart of Royal Bank in Scotia and CIBC in Canada, the heart of Commonwealth Bank and Bank of the Bahamas in Bahamas, and perhaps Fidelity. So they have to find a solution because they can't pack up and exit the country and go somewhere else. This has to work. You see what I mean? And so Donna, they little trapsy with offering more money, but perhaps the people say, Lord, I pay the children school fee, or I hope it's only in very desperate, they say we need some float money to keep the light on or something like that, and they pay it directly to BBC. Don't you put money in the hand of a person who you had money to spend for a very long time. That ain't gonna help them.
Right.
But even if that's the case, Miss Bullard, the mere fact that what you said, it sort of like triggered something. The fact that Commonwealth Bank only exists in the jurisdiction of the Bahamas, as far as what we can see in terms of their investments. But my thing is, don't you think it's time now for them to possibly put a physical presence in other jurisdictions where they possibly can make what they're making here or even more?
Well, they could, but make it work in your own country first.
Well, it's been working because most people have a loan at Commonwealth Bank.
Yeah, but now most people need help. And what you could do, the pandemic could shut them down, or they could find a solution, and they could stay open, and then in another 5 years, they say, okay, remember, we helped you all for those 5 years. We need to add $10, something reasonable onto your loan payment. Something that ain't gonna kill you. You know what I mean? And everybody benefit. It's a relationship.
But I see
think-
that, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, Miss Bullard, don't you think the reason why most Bahamians have to borrow is the fact that they're not compensated well from the start, from the beginning?
Right, so that's why I started off with minimum wage.
I'm not talking about poor financial decisions, but I'm talking about compensation in terms of the standard of living. Because if you're only on a job making $250 or $300 and you have to pay your rent and you have to pay your mortgage, that's you're already in a borrowing position because you don't have any money to do anything else.
Yeah, so all of that is tied to minimum wage. That's how all the salary. If the minimum wage is only $210, even if you work in the private sector, it only could be a percentage above minimum wage. Okay, just like the debt service ratio, that's like the calculation how you would base everything else on. So that's the biggest problem, the minimum wage. And then all our natural resources, again, look at what happened in the Netherlands and how much money they get back. In Morocco, the people get like $1,000 a month. I see Lincoln being on TV saying he could give $100,000 to people from the natural resources, but he never even been a politician, and he don't have no experience. He was a reporter, then a lawyer, then a pastor, now he's a politician. So based on what, he don't even know what it takes to unravel all the mess that have this money tied up for 50 years. Right? So yeah, our natural resources, minimum wage, and then our natural resources, because we way below the poverty line. The minimum wage in Switzerland just increased because you walk inside a shop and you buy a bag of chips for $6. But their minimum wage, I think, is $28 an hour or $26 an hour.
Right in the United States, and they fighting over increasing the minimum
Okay.
wage to $16.
Okay, that's the only.
Walmart, that's not the biggest fight, and their income was two trillion, couple $trillion just in 2020.
Yeah, yeah. You have to fix the systemic problems in the country.
7 something an hour.
Right. So again, okay, this is how we do it. We fix our tax problem. Okay, and that's how everybody gets a piece of the pie. Because when you look at it, people have to live and they have to eat. And then it just adds to our crime problem as well. Because nobody gets sit and starve. People get teeth. They wonder why so much people teeth and tissue out of Atlantis and strapping stakes to their body. It might be that they're greedy. Okay. Okay, so this is what happens. And so if we have so many systemic issues, we have to find a way to fix them. And one way is to fix it. Okay, and that's how we could get into chapter 2. I hope most of you had the opportunity to read it. But taxes are needed for a country to operate properly. Okay, and I worked in offshore for the majority of my career, and I see that very rich people, they hate the government, they hate taxes, and they hate insurance. They always find a way. Yeah, they hate giving out their own money. They always find a way to avoid the tax, or in some cases they evade it. Okay, and so for many years, of course, we know that Bahamas was known as a tax jurisdiction, and it made us very attractive. So most persons said, listen, my country want 35% tax from me. I can put my money in an offshore jurisdiction. Okay, and they won't ever know. I just won't disclose it. Now, there's tax evasion. When it becomes tax evasion, which is illegal when you don't disclose it. When you disclose it, it's tax avoidance, because there may be a treaty in place. You may get a discount. You may, there's all sorts of incentives in place to give you if you left the money in the country, you would have paid 30%. If you have it somewhere else and you are senior or what have you, but you disclose, you pay a lesser amount. That's avoidance.
People always want to tax again. You are going to look up to Paso,
mutual evaluation. Okay, so Gabrielle, right? Danielle, sorry, is asking me to go over the homework question. So let's just backtrack and we get right back to that question. Okay, so you have a copy of the mutual evaluation and you looked in the contents. Okay, and so you didn't see, or out of the 22 that was.
I just wanted to make sure that I was telling you right.
Answer? Okay, so tell me what your answer is.
I just jot down a few notes. Everything is good. I completed covering the issues of trafficking, persons, prevention, and suppression Act 2008. Firearms Amendment Act 2008, freezing the inability to freeze without delay. Persons not being able to access information or records and documents for purpose of the investigation. And that's all I will do.
Okay, so you would have got, if you look at the table of contents, it lists the 40 recommendations and then it gives a key findings. And in this key findings, it tells you exactly the 22 that was not in place, that deficient or were compliant or not largely compliant or what have you. And so you would pick those three, but the question asks,
The three positions that were noted, ATF 2017 tool evaluation report on the Bahamas.
okay, and you said, well, you see the first one, of course, recommendation one is the risk assessment.
Okay,
And-
I already knew that one.
Yeah.
I thought he was in August. We was in doing this thing for coaching.
Right,
Fine.
right.
I knew that one from last class, so I just wanted to make sure you got a one for.
Yeah, so you could check it right there to see exactly what rating we got, and then you could go a step further to find out exactly how did we satisfy it. And this is a way to find out. Remember, I think I showed you this last week when I told you all that the opposition leader, that was this class where I said the opposition leader had complained that we did not ask for a teleconference to, we got blacklisted by the European Union because they were not able to confirm last year that we were satisfying our action plan. Yeah, no, they couldn't come in because of the pandemic.
Right.
The one by mistake was in 2018. Yeah, and then that was in May of 2018 was when they didn't get the information. They were supposed to come May. Yeah, and it was the pandemic, and so they did not come. And because they didn't come, they had offered a teleconference to other countries. Remember, I said now they said they are not going to blacklist us. Other countries are going to blacklist us, or the European Union. So the European Union blacklisted us because they were not able to come in and verify that we were sticking to the action plan, especially in regards to taxation. And so Chester Cooper stood up and said, why didn't we ask for a teleconference? So we did ask for a teleconference and they did not respond. Okay, and then they listed exactly all the things that were deficient and where we were and how they updated it. I don't know why it's going fast like this. Okay, okay, so this tells you what they did with all the updates.
So once you did, you don't get this document. I mean, the other two documents.
2017 financial evaluation.
Yeah, and this is the update, September 24, 2020. Okay, so I'll send y'all out the update so we could always just go through and see exactly what we did. No, this is an update that they just sent out in September because Chester Cooper stood up and said, we're not doing anything. We're not asking for a teleconference. We're just allowing us to be blacklisted again. And, and so the government came back and said, this is what we've done. And it talks about the risk assessment. It talks about how the terrorism was deficient. The terrorism laws were deficient and they updated those. Then it talks about the DPs, the non-financial businesses not being regulated. And they say they are now regulated by the Compliance Commission, the law firms, the lawyers, and the accountants. The sanction regime was not in place, or the sanction framework was not in place. It needed to be updated. It tells you now what they did and what they did to update it. Definitely, that's going to be a question on the final exam. Yeah, and what they did, what was deficient, and what did they do to fix it?
You said you're gonna send that to us, right?
Yeah, I'll send this out to everybody right after. Somewhat, yeah, on the FATF and the deficiencies, yeah. So it's gonna be more specific as to saying now list and say what was deficient and what were the changes? Okay, and so one of the next deficiencies was, of course, we did not have taxation as a predicate crime. So, or tax evasion, sorry, as a predicate crime. And so in 2018, the penal code, 2018 was updated to list tax evasion as a predicate crime. However, it was only a predicate crime in the Bahamas. And so they had to update it again in 2020, in December of 2020, to make it a predicate crime worldwide. So if you go and do research, you'll see Carl Bethel out there in the House of Assembly just recently explaining that it was an oversight on our part that they didn't put the proper wording. And again, this is how you hire Lucille or you hire Wayne Monroe and they went on a technicality. Okay, because if anybody had been charged between 2018 and 2020, it was not properly written on our books. Okay, so these are the type of things that the IMF have an issue with to ensure. They want you to ensure that these things will hold up in court. Because again, remember, we had not had anybody charged prior to what 250 and ever with money laundering. Yeah, so that's very strange for us, our law-abiding self, right? Yeah. Okay. All right. So good. You fine with the question? And anybody else had a question on one or two? Okay. So excellent, Danielle, that you are actually going through it, because a lot of people is wait till the end and then you become overwhelmed. Oh, Miss Bullet, this is so much. No, right up front, you have the answer. So
I
very
had a
good.
question on the homework itself.
Okay.
The first, so I read the admin cases,
Okay.
and from what I gather, it's just giving us the different examples for each stage of the money laundering cycle. So is that what we're supposed to do to answer the question?
Right. So you write an overview of the cases. It's three cases, 4, 5, and 6. Yeah. So you read those and you write an overview of exactly what happened. And did the question ask you anything about the Bahamas?
No.
Okay, but I would start and look at research in the Bahamas as well.
So basically, we could bring up I forgot Campbell and how her and her son did the
Was it
9
drug
tax.
trafficking?
No, I don't think so. No.
Okay, so then no.
All right.
Yeah, so make sure you understand the question. How much regarding drug trafficking and what has happened, and look at old cases versus new cases, because the law changed in 2018. So prior to 2018, what happened? And we've always been, I think, a little bit good with prosecuting drug trafficking, correct? Yeah, for the most part, that's the only thing we prosecuted, drug traffickers or fraud, right? So you should find a lot of information on that. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, good. Any other questions? Yeah. So
Sorry,
you in
before
it?
you go ahead. Do you have to recite the cases or reiterate the cases by case, or could you just say what kind of methods they use across the cases?
Yeah,
Or
no,
can you summarize
just
it?
give a brief overview, like a paragraph about each case.
Each case, okay,
Yeah, and then tie the Bahamas in.
okay.
You might as well do it now and get it over with, and so you'll be fully prepared for the exam.
Yeah, I was doing it last night. That's why I was asking too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You expect us to do like a table of contents?
No,
No?
no, just an overview. Yeah, an essay take. Your thesis or your introduction, your body, and then your conclusion. Right, and then examples, real life examples, and that's where you tie the Bahamas in, with your real life examples. Yeah.
Excuse me, Ms. Bullard.
Yeah.
Before the young lady asked about the homework, you were referring to something, and I wasn't too. I don't know if I probably caught that. I know you was talking about you're going to send a document, but you were saying it was two
this
things.
same
So I just want to
document
make sure
right here.
I didn't lose nothing.
Okay, so there's the mutual evaluation completed in July 2017 that shows which recommendations we were deficient in. You got that
Okay.
part?
Yeah, I got that part. but you
Okay,
were
and
saying
so
it was two
this,
things. So I wanted to
yeah,
make sure I
so this
understand
is
what
an
the next thing.
update on what
Mhm.
we had fixed. So there were 22 deficiencies. This is an update to tell us what they fixed.
Also, it's a two-part thing that you're referring to, the
Right.
2017 version, and then what year would be the next one?
This one is September 24, 2020. It's just an update to tell you what they did to satisfy the requirements.
Okay, so it's a two-part document that we must refer to.
Yeah, that's where the information is. I mean, you could Google it or what have you, but this is telling you for the most part what they did to
And then you spoke something
they
about
put in place to satisfy the requirements.
Okay, then you spoke something about a penile code or something like
Yeah,
that.
so I was speaking directly about tax. So if you look right here, it tells you, because again, you want to know, where I looked this up because ICA now has a question on tax evasion, and if it's a predicate crime in the Bahamas, they say in the jurisdiction of your choice. And so I say, of course, I know it's a predicate crime, but where is it? So I came right to the document and I did a search, and I saw a tax, and it tells you they sign a memorandum of understanding, but I want to go to the first time, number one, and it just the update, just the update. So it tells you the legal framework now includes the predicate offense of tax crimes via the amendment of the Bahamas Penal Code. Okay, and
Okay.
around the time when they would have written this is when they started to amend it again because it only made it a crime in the Bahamas. You know, so because this is their ICA question, they would need to actually quote, yes, is it a predicate kind of jurisdiction? Yes. The Bahamas Penal Code, section blah, 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 and they would have to state, yeah, yeah. And it's a good discussion point that they can have that prior, we're just saying now that the law was updated, however, the verbiage was not sufficient to, you know, bring anybody before the court.
Was this around the same time when they brought the law from the custom tariffs?
I don't know, when did they bring the law for that?
I think it was about 2 or 3 years, no, for 3 or 4 years.
Okay, 218, everything was revamped and repealed, and everywhere it was deficient, they did an update. Now, you know, they are coming back to check to see, did you really do? Because remember now, in 2000, we put all the laws in place. But again, we put in the shell because it would have wiped out of our financial services sector. So we used a staggered approach. You know, they put it in and they checked and they say, you're blacklisted. And then we update them more and then we say, what is the effect of putting this law in place? Okay, when we talk about tax evasion in the United States, it costs the IRS $380 million to enact this law. Okay, $380 million to put this law in place. The people they had to hire, the systems they had to put in place, the training, it cost them $380 million. So you had to know that they were making billions of dollars to make that investment to put this law in place. Okay, regulation is very expensive. The central bank and the Securities Commission had to create analytics department where they had to hire these 10 persons. You know, at least 3 people work on managing each of these banks, depending on the size. Okay, that's a lot of work. They had to be trained. They had to get systems. It was a lot. Laws and regulations are very expensive, and that's why you see it's closing out. Banking used to be 20% of GDP. We lost 17%. It's now 3%. Okay, that's how many banks closed out because they simply couldn't afford it. They couldn't afford it. They can't afford a MLRO, the minimum $50,000 a year. The law firms can't afford it. The accounting firms, the real estate, they can't afford it. It's very expensive. Okay, and you need an entire compliance department, just not one person. And I gotta go to training, and I need benefits and insurance and all, you know, all the bells and whistles. So very expensive. Okay. Okay, so at least now we know the penal code is the Bahamas law that was updated, and it had to be amended again after the 218. It's now, I think, amended 2020 to make sure that we tax evasion. When Lucille is your lawyer, he ain't winning on no technicalities when you reach in court. So the law is fully updated. Okay, so back to tax evasion. In when Obama was president, you know, he said before I borrow any more money from the Chinese and have to bend to the Chinese, I am going to fix my tax problem. I don't know if you all remember, there was some circulation that came out from HSBC because they were being fined that they had 55 Bahamians having like $3 billion or something like that, you know, in offshore money. And so Obama said, you know, there are billions of dollars in offshore jurisdictions, and the US does not collect a dollar from any of them. And we just keep borrowing from the Chinese. So he said he is going to put FACA in place. And so, what is it? There's something else with the same acronym. So Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act. So if it don't come up about taxes when you Google it, make sure you put in Foreign Account Tax Act. So he didn't want to bow to the Chinese. He said, I'm going to fix my tax problem. And so the net effect of him fixing his tax problem was that all these offshore jurisdictions, he made it law that if you want to, be an ally with the U.S., if you want to do business, you have to agree to sign into T's with America to
Why you want
ensure
to do
that.
settings?
Sorry,
I was about to say,
somebody
I don't
said
know.
something.
I wear that again.
Can you mute your mic, please, Symphony?
Oh, I'm
Right.
so sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't want to bow to the Chinese. The countries must sign into the laws. So, a lot of countries, like the UAE and Cayman said, we're not gonna. You could send us information if you want to, but I'm not gonna sign into any agreement with you because that again will wipe out our economy. At that time, Royal Bank had a private banking department. Private banking completely closed because if I now have to send all the U.S. information to the U.S., what's the point of keeping an account open and paying fees on top of that? He now switched it around and it became cheaper to do business back at home. Then they even said, listen, if you repatriate your money for 2 years, we won't ask you no questions. So they put out the incentive, bring your money back to the country. Okay? And so a lot of people just repatriated their money. So in 2014, it came out and we reported to the US, billions of dollars in tax revenue was collected that year. And they didn't penalize anybody. I have a client right now who was charged last year $6 million for defrauding Switzerland for tax evasion in Switzerland because he disclosed the incorrect amounts. He took some zeros off and they calculated it and they found it out and CRS came into place. So after the US had collected all that money, the world paid attention and say, oh my God, we don't want to borrow any money from China either. So we're going to fix our tax problem. So from FACA came CRS, Common Reporting Standard. So FACA is the US tax that has to be reported. CRS is the rest of the world. Okay, so that's basically what happened. And so with countries, that's the only way they make money. They have natural resources, but for the most part, one person, like one family controls the natural resources in the Bahamas. Some of us will know who that family is, right? In Freeport, one person, one family controls the port. So it's almost like a capitalist nation where with the gaming houses, 8 people have gaming licenses. The rest of us suffer, right? 7 or 8 people have gaming license. One died the other day, so 97 now. So 7 people have gaming license. Everybody else suffer. When you look at other countries, they are national lotteries. There's never one person who is going to be very wealthy and everybody else, below the poverty line. So it's crazy. So those are the type of things that need to be fixed. But essentially, a country outside of their natural resources, the only way they could make money is from taxes. Okay, so I know it's a bit of a secular VAT. We weren't used to it, but if we're not going to pay VAT, the only option the country has is to borrow, 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 borrow. And the more we borrow, our ratings decrease. The cost of living goes up. There are a lot of negative effects from this continuous borrowing. Essentially, then you bow to the Chinese, like Obama said. We are borrowing $192 million to build this port. China has loaned Guatemala and 3 African countries money to build their port. They were unable to pay before the pandemic. China now owns their port. Okay, so just before we signed into this agreement with China to build our port, Trump had called Hubert Minnis. He said, come, I need to have a talk with you. We need to talk about, are you going to be able to pay this loan? Because, the US has a lot of interest in Andros, their whole entire tech base is there. Okay, and in the world, in terms of atomic bombs, China has about 8. The US has 2,000. So where you think those atomic bombs is? In the water in Andros, right? Okay, so they have to make sure that they protect their territory. So the US is always our savior, will always lend us money. We can always call on them, because they do not want us to be acquired by China. And China has a history of loaning money, just like Commonwealth Bank, but people cannot pay back, right? All throughout the Caribbean, everywhere in the world is a little China. Okay? again, because they would have loaned them money and they defaulted, and they said, don't worry about it. We'll just take your whole entire country. We'll just take the $15. If the port don't work out, every time a cruise ship comes in, it's $15 a passenger, right? And 7,000 passengers coming in a day. We could just take that duty. We could just collect the run from all the shops. And so is the Bahamian economy making any money? No, that money will go back to China. Okay, so this is why we have to find ways to drive our economy outside of borrowing. Okay, so back to the rich people. The rich people hate taxes because what the government just do? Build big houses, drive nice cars, send their children to the best schools. They don't invest it in the hospital or in the roads or into education or healthcare. They spend the money as they see fit. There's a lot of stealing going on and a lot of corruption and bribery. And so that's why rich people have a problem, or anybody has a problem, because the tax dollar is not essentially going where it's supposed to go, right? And then our Bahamian government, they like to say, oh, it's in a consolidated fund. What the? It's a consolidated fund. You don't have accountants. You don't have, no, you're right. You know that when I hear that, it drives me crazy. I said, this, you don't do accounting. I'm not an accountant. You don't do it that way. There's no consolidated fund with no accountability. It's foolishness. But anyway, yeah. So that's the how FACA and CRS came about. Obama did it first. It wiped out many jobs all throughout the Caribbean because, like I said, it became cheaper to keep your money at home. And then other countries said, wow, if the US makes those billions of dollars and they collect it and it worked for them, it could work for us. Okay? But again, the US is our brother and they are our ally. They normally look out for us. What they did is they have an act called the Volcker Act that deals with capital markets. So where you saw that private banking closed down in many countries, in the Volcker Act, they put a condition where you cannot trade online. So you would see the New York Stock Exchange. I was at Royal Bank, and the entire stock exchange from in New York shut down and had to move offshore in order to invest in the US market. So they did away with private banking, but they did give us something back to survive, which is capital markets. Of course, we are so far behind. None of us sufficiently trained to trade, to know how capital markets work, and nobody even know that's our new way of making money. They still have the foreigners controlling, the majority of jobs, especially the executive ones in capital markets. Okay, so that's the new way from 2014 for us to make money. Capital markets.
What is this about?
The Volcker Act. So it's tied to, it's like the Securities Act in the US. It does not allow them to sit in the US and invest in the US market. You have to be in an offshore jurisdiction. So people moved to Cayman, to Barbados, whilst they were exiting private banking, they were bringing in capital markets. But unfortunately, the locals are not trained to, take over that industry. So get up to date. That's the new way to make money. Okay?
Now you said Volcker.
I have a question.
Yeah, the Volcker Act is the Securities Act.
Can you say
Miss
the
Philippine,
letters?
V-O, I think it's V.
No, I think understand you're saying V or V.
No, V-O-C-K-L-E-R. You all Google it. Miss Philippine can't spell it. Volcker. CSR is Common Reporting Standard, which means every other country in the world, they want to collect their taxes as well. Yeah, CRS. Sorry, go ahead. Who wanted to ask a question?
That was me. You talked about the only way, well, one of the ways to make money, the government to make money is to impose taxes. And so we have VAT now.
Yes.
But in the news this week, they mentioned about reducing, well, not reducing, but giving people 50% off on their real property tax. And I wanted to know what you thought about that, because I mean, some people, I guess, can't afford it, but what about the people who could afford it and just have been avoiding it?
That's not a new initiative. That 50% is offered that every year and nobody pays it. And that was one of the problems that persons had about VAT. They said, the government let's do a bad job at collecting the taxes already. They can't collect taxes at the airport, the tariffs and what have you. So they don't collect the property tax. So how are they going to collect the VAT? But surprisingly, VAT has been, the VAT has been, but have they been able to collect? Do they have the systems and stuff? Yeah. So that's what they saying. Will you go after it? So yeah, that incentive is in every year. Nobody pays it.
So
Nobody pays it, and
But
then
Ms. Blair, someone was
go
gonna
ahead.
someone was gonna speak before me.
no, you
Sorry,
can go
Avery.
ahead. I was going
Oh,
to, but Symphony
yeah.
can go ahead.
Yeah, what I
Avery,
was
I
gonna
don't know
say.
if I answered your question. Did I answer your question? No.
Well, I mean, I need the government to tighten up, because then if they don't, I mean, that's their duty. So I feel as though they need to be more stringent with things. But then again, like you say, people stealing here and there and all that
Yeah,
stuff. So
and then they use that as a political tactic almost every election.
right.
They feel like we go waive the property tax, but they know we go defer it for 2 years. So, and then Perry Christie even went as far. I don't know Ishmael Lightburn. He used to be the CEO at PricewaterhouseCoopers for many years, and he fell along the wayside, got into some problems. And Perry Christie had said waive his property tax,
Jeez.
and he was a CEO for like 30 years.
That's
Yeah,
a
he
very nice
got into some
idea.
problems, and they wanted to waive his own. So yeah, they have to do a better job at collecting that tax, but nobody is paid.
Well,
That
they actually
to come around
do
again.
have, a few very wealthy persons now in court because they
Before the court?
because they've not paid there's a very big name realtor. I won't call his name, but he's before the courts at this time because he's not paid his real property tax to the government. The treasurer and the AG's office has actually put a lien on like all of his properties and everything.
I don't know that case, but I can tell you I am almost certain 100% that every time you sell a property, that's the only time you could pay that. You have to pay that tax. There's no way around it. What happened with him is that persons paid it and he collected that and never paid it to the government. That's why he's supposed to be before the courts. So it didn't be for his personal, the properties that he owned. It for where he would have collected the money as the lawyer or the real estate person on behalf of the government and took the money. You see what I mean?
Right, but
that's more than likely the case.
It's also because he's a realtor, and so obviously he's purchasing property to sell it. So and then what his issue is that he has these bunch of properties that he's not been, and these bunch of, I guess, buildings and stuff that he's not been paying real property tax on, and along with what it is that you said. And so now he's in a position where the government, he owes so much, where to the point now where, like, I know this one particular situation where he actually has, he's not able to put infrastructure in a particular area with some properties that he's sold to some persons. And so because he's not able to put that infrastructure in, what's happening now is the persons can't do what they need to do because the ministry will not approve the infrastructure.
Right, because he got into some problems where he collected the government money and didn't pay it, and so the government went after him for everything.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
but let me tell you something. In most countries, only poor people is paid bills. And he don't have a strong network, because if he had a strong network, he probably wouldn't even been brought before the court. Only poor people is paid bills. If you look at the delinquency, I wouldn't tell you which company I was working to, but when I looked, all through Life a Key, all the friends, lovers in the family, all these people was on the repossessed list. Nobody ever called them once. When the government changed is when they went after all those politicians. Okay? And so, like I say, only poor people is paid bills, and if your networking is strong. Okay, you go to the traffic court in the night, there's not a seat. But you see the murderers, they are on bail in 2 years. There's not a seat because water and sewage, Commonwealth Bank, all the poor people there being dragged before the courts. And if you say you only give $25, they can take that $25 from you. But you're one rich person, I was, I don't want to say where I was, but I was there one day when this person used to collect rent from the institution that he owed, and his loan payment was $15,000, and his rent was $25,000. And we sat there and we said, well, we took your rent payment and we applied it to your mortgage. And he said, oh no, y'all can't do that. I need my money. And he said, hold on. He made one phone call. I got he said, hold on, talk to Miss Bullet. I got that phone call and I was told, give that man. I said, but I've already applied it to this loan. They say, unapply it and give him his full check for the rent. Or he'll put Royal Bank out, like I'm talking, he'll put Royal Bank out this building. Just like that. Okay? So it depends on who you are and who in your network. Okay? So just so you all know.
Ms.
You
Bullet, I
better
wanted to
get your
comment.
network together.
I like that story. It was a very nice story, but I wanted to comment on the part when you said about how at the airport they can't collect taxes. Now that's going to change because a custom officer told me, because me and him had a problem about the bill that he was calculating. He said, well, Ms. Garden, this wouldn't be an issue in the future because before you land, before the plane lands, you have to fill in your thing online. And when you pay online, whatever the government says, what you pay, so unless you leave all your things with them. And then you will have to then claim for reimbursement, which we know will take a million years. So it will be no more meeting the customs officer who is cool with you or, the one to go to.
Or your cousins. No more cousins.
No,
okay,
they'll be
but
collecting
good,
their
Tiffany,
money.
very good. I'm happy you brought that up because that leads us into this discussion between tax avoidance and tax evasion. Okay, so we have our singer Shakira. Remember, she did a very nice dance on the what was it? With her and J-Lo the other day, Super Bowl 2 years ago, right? Shakira, y'all don't know Shakira? Shakira. Yeah. So Shakira decided that she, of course, she is not Bahamian, but she got Bahamian residency, right? And the law says, like Leslie just said, oh, we can find a workaround for customs. Of course we will, right? So tax evasion, they put in a number of dates that you could stay in a particular country, and they say it's 183 days. When you get to the 184th day, then you are liable for taxes in that country. So Shakira is from Spain, and of course, she has a house, I think, on Paradise Island or what have you. So when she filed her taxes, she said, I'm a Bahamian citizen. And so, or they give you citizenship. Once you buy a home, it's 750,000 or more, you get a citizenship. And so, what they did is they said, but no, we could, we follow you. You were on tour all over Europe, then you were in Spain and this and that and the next day. And they probed her and they looked at the stamps in her passport that said she had stayed in Spain more than 183 days. And so she was charged with tax evasion and she had to pay Spain so much millions of dollars. It's all over the internet because she tried to use her Bahamian citizenship to say she had stayed here. So many of those stars are very wealthy persons. They do have citizenships in other countries, and that's why they put in the number of days. So if you stay over the number of days, you are evading if you go and file a report or you disclose that you would have been in the other country. Okay, and it's an easy way for them to the right immigration stamps your passport. Okay, and even if you go back for one day, you see a lot of people say, "Oh, I just need to go back home or to the Bahamas for one day just to avoid these taxes." And again, these taxes are 35% of your income and your dividend and what have you. So it's very expensive. So it's cheaper to buy a Bahamas air ticket and fly to Bahamas for a day than to pay 30% of your income. Okay, so that's tax evasion if you stay over the days. Again, if you put your money in offshore jurisdictions and you go and disclose to your country that, oh, I only have $1,000 and you have $1 million in offshore jurisdiction, that's tax evasion. You can have your money in an offshore jurisdiction. That's not evasion. The day you disclose the wrong amount, that's when it comes evasion. Avoidance. The Bahamas is known as an offshore jurisdiction. We are allowed to come up with very savvy ways to avoid this tax. And that's why we make billions of dollars in fees and what have you from these offshore deposits, because we said, listen, you're not never gonna go to jail, because this is how you avoid it, right? And so on the CRS and FACA, there is a CRS and FACA for dummies, where it tells you all the various loopholes in the US system and the different country system on how to avoid the tax, not evade. And so if you want a lot of customers and you're a very savvy banker, then you go and read tax for dummies and find those very savvy ways to avoid. In just locally, so everybody would understand avoidance. Um, if you bring in energy efficient appliances, your tax rate at customs is 5%. If you don't bring in energy efficient, it's 25%. So when you go and you say, I'm going to spend an extra $100 in Walmart or Target or whatever for this washer and dryer, then you avoid the tax. You avoid that extra 20% tax, right? When we walk through customs, and we know, no Bahamian woman ever been away and spent $500 in Miami, and we fill out that form and we say we spend $350 because we don't even want to pay the back. And we need 2 trolleys. We have a cooler. We have a 100-inch TV, but everything. That's evasion. Okay, so you all stop it.
It's Bolaji being petty. Being
No,
petty.
I telling you all the truth.
Y'all might as well lock
I'm
up the
sorry,
whole country.
Meryl,
Gotta lock the whole country up.
yeah, and see, that's why it's so bad. It's so bad. They have to change the law because Ms. Bullet stand up there straight face many times. But I take on my turn. I say, hey, that's why I get 15 exemptions. Oh, how about that? There you go. There you go. But no, so it's become so bad now. It's being digital symphony. So that's evasion. So you all stop evasion because it's now from 2018 it was for Bahamas. Yeah, so it was a predicate crime and now it's international. Okay, so you all go read what the penalty is under the penal code and you all stop evading taxes.
This is powerful.
Okay, good, Meryl. Good. I'm glad you'll get it. Stop it. You're going to jail. So again, if you bring in unassembled furniture, it's 5%.
We going to jail. You're going to jail with us too.
No, somebody got to bring the cigarettes and milk. Miss Bullen have a network. How about that? We're my lawyer people in this group. They're gonna be right there to represent me.
I'm glad you in my network too. Thanks.
No, James ain't here tonight. James ain't here tonight. Sorry, Renelle, I didn't hear you.
I said I'm glad you're in my network too. Thanks.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Tell go, Miss Bullet. She knows somebody. Come bail us on. They need some people to be hauled before the court. So internationally, they can say we doing what we supposed to do, right? Okay, so if you want to save some money, bring in unassembled furniture and then pay somebody here $30 to put it together. It'll be cheaper than the 45% for furniture. Yeah, that's avoidance. Okay, so please know how to explain because that's a very easy and popular question. Evasion versus avoidance. Okay, so yeah, that's a popular question on the test. Okay, so where are we now? The types of taxation, again, the VAT. We have no problem paying the VAT if it's going to fix the roads, if it's going to go in. They did fun. And every year there's a budget and then they will tell you where the money goes. Okay, so once we can hold the government accountable, then we don't have, we have to become the leaders. We just have to do a complete wash. But that's why we're here. We are going to be the future leaders, okay? All of us. When I call and say the new party starting, and we can make sense. We have sufficient knowledge and sufficient experience in the next 10 years, okay? So VAT again. Don't let the government use this as a political tactic. Whoever wins the government by 2022, the VAT has to go up to 15%. Okay. I think we have the lowest tax collection in the Caribbean. I think Dominican Republic is right above below us, but the taxes collected like from the population in like Trinidad and Tobago and Barbados, all of them, they even have yeah, they're very, very high. So
22%.
again, so we're not so competitive and everybody run and move to the Bahamas. Yeah. Yes. Yes, they do. And then again, you could go sit up in the hospital in Canada and you're comfortable. I don't know if you could go in PMH and wait for 2 days before you are served. Okay, and so this is what we need to advocate for. We don't need to fight against having to pay the tax. We need to fight that we have to wait 2 days to get served and we're getting the proper service when we get to the hospital.
They make
Okay.
PMH pretty on the outside, but it still look the same.
Yeah.
inside.
Yeah, and so we need reform. And with these roads, we need reform because the people is okay, your tires, and then if BEC dig up today, but they'll go after you done tire it, but they'll go dig up the next week. Okay, and so who be making rich? Bahamas Hot Mix. Okay? Okay. Ministry of Works, yes, need to burn down the ground, okay? Because almost
what
every
about-
government building is dilapidated and falling apart, have to be this with the post office, just have what they call it destruction, demolished. Why do we have a Ministry of Works and every building have to be demolished and nothing is being maintained? Okay, yeah, we building, yeah. So now we getting in the 30-year leases with Sabas and 30-year leases with Frankie Wilson because that's who own all the businesses or the office space. And they want 99-year leases. Okay, foolishness. Okay, they know how to get rich. If you know, so that's what they do. They do a needs assessment. They see what's wrong. They see what the government is so entwined. It'll take 50 years to get out of this web. There you go. There you go. And they become billionaires. Again, a capitalist nation rather than a socialist nation. A few, 10 of us millionaires, everybody else poor. Okay? So be prepared for the VAT no matter who wins, because you know we have to borrow all kind of money. And just make sure that it goes, advocate for it to go to the right place. Okay? No more control. I hate the consolidated fund. So we know what the tariffs and exercise taxes is. That's what we get at customs. We know the social security tax is what comes out of an NIV. Yeah, we don't have the income tax. Barbados has that. They have the social security and the income tax. So that's a double hit on the salary. We do have corporate tax because whether you always paid a business license fee, and now it's a percentage of the business that you pay. Yeah, it depends on the business license. So to some degree, we have it. Withholding tax, again, in the securities business, every investment that is made, there's 30% taken from that. So that falls under something it's called Chapter 4 status, qualified intermediary payments. So institutions that invest in the into stock markets on behalf of their clients, each client and each investment has that 30% levied against them. And so the institution is responsible to collect that and pay that to the US government. Okay, and so that's a whole process. You got it qualified intermediary payments. It's a whole
I actually used to do those audits in my prior life at EY.
Sorry?
I said I actually used to do those QI audits in my prior life at EY.
Oh, okay, yes, so good. Some of us are familiar. No, that's Nikisha. She's Burroughs? Nikisha?
Miss
yeah.
Nikisha,
Yes, I am. Yes.
Yeah.
a pleasure to meet you, darling.
Thank
That's
you.
okay.
What did you say? Was it QI?
Yes,
Yeah, qualified intermediary. If you look on page 15 in the middle, you would see where it says qualified intermediary rules.
Okay. Pleasure to meet you, Nikisha.
Thank you, same.
Right. And so again, these taxes depends on where you're domiciled and what the tax rate of each individual country is. So what happens now, a part of customer due diligence, when persons come in and open up an account, they are required to fill out a self-certification form. And so the thing with these forms are, yeah, that's a copy I got. Let me pull one up. There are two forms. Remember, there's one tax specifically for the US FACA, and then for the rest of the world is CRS. Right.
Well,
So
I'm
let
not
me,
screen,
Can you
unfortunately.
share your screen, please, too?
Yeah.
I'm
Dang
going
it.
to share it right now. Okay, so let me just show you CRS form. So, okay, let's just look at Citibank form. And this is like almost similar to the OECD, the form that they put out. So most institutions copy this. And so this is the form they ask you. There's one for individuals and then one for entities. And if you have an entity, then there must be a controlling person. So some people have a second form for a controlling person, or they just have a box embedded in here. So this is all the information. They actually your current residence and then your mailing address. And remember now we are required to know our customer. And so this is a big thing. A lot of these forms come in incorrect. And a lot of people in the beginning, it's a lot better now. But these accounts, let's say they were open up from 2000 or 2015. And so when we send out these forms, a lot of people just sent in jurisdictions that were not non-reciprocal or where you didn't have to file. So let me just show you. The Bahamas signed into an agreement to exchange information with these. Let me see how many countries. 63 countries. So what you would find is that the UAE said you're not gonna like Dubai and United Emirates. They say you're not gonna wipe out our financial services sector. We're not. You could send us information, but we're not gonna send you any. The US came out with FACA, and the US said we're non-reciprocal. So you must send us that information, or if you don't send us that information, whatever US holdings you have, you must pay us 30%. But the US on this, if where okay, so I just want to show you all how unfair it is sometimes. So the USA, you must send us this information. However, we're non-reciprocal. If our country used to collect taxes, we're not gonna tell you how much money they have with us so they can pay their tax, because then they will repatriate their funds. Again, it'll be too expensive to do business with us, so they'll bring their money back home. So send us the information, but you don't have to send, we are not sending it. Then the United Kingdom is here. But let's look at Cayman, who is another very large offshore jurisdiction. Again, why does Cayman not have to do it? Cayman is what type of colony? Or so here is the United Kingdom and the European Union who blocking everybody and blacklisting everybody. But let's save, let's protect that little Caribbean country that makes all the money for us, right? So it just depends on who you are. Okay, and this is why you need to get on these boards, and we have international representation. Remember, I said we're very happy now that the Attorney General is the chairman of the CFATF, so we won't be hit so hard because all of us are equal, but some of us are more equal than others. Animal Farm, anybody read it in high school? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Some of us are more equal. Okay. So 63 countries, we have to now send them this information. Yeah. Citizen Leslie has this money here. There's how much money he have, and yeah, this is the form. So of course Leslie does not money. He already gets citizenship somewhere else. He buy the house in the Bahamas for 750,000. He don't even live in Spain, and the people in the Prime Minister of Spain has been impeached for corruption and bribery and have a big house and living on a private island. So he's not putting the money in the country. So I'm not gonna pay Spain my tax dollar. So when I fill this out, I'm gonna say I'm from the Bahamas. Who is it? Who is supposed to know the customer? Okay, so you have to verify, and this was a very, because again, we weren't trained on taxes. We had like 4 industry updates that year. Compliance is supposed to be independent of the business, but nobody knew what to do. So guess who had to go out and learn about CRS and FACA? and train the rest of the institution. And until I left, I was still doing CRS and FACA and leaving and saying, this is operational. I cannot leave it on the other compliance officer. No, leave it with them. Okay. So if you are compliance and you are doing this, I said, let me take it as an opportunity to learn so I could train somebody properly, but they never wanted to take the function back away from me because nobody else knew to do. Okay. And then the type of entity you are. If you are a corporation, they are like active corporations like central banks, and they trade on the stock exchange or they are regulated. And so their likelihood of evading tax is very low because they have annual fees and everything that have to be paid. So you don't need to worry about those people. They don't have to be reported. So there are various categories. And so it really depends where your company is incorporated. That determines where you are resident. Okay? And so ensure, because people put all sorts of foolishness on this, and the bank then becomes liable if they do not report to the country. Okay, and then see the section here for controlling person. They say no longer it can be bullet and code. It has to be a natural person who controls the business. Okay, and so of course they find a way to they want to put or your CEO of the company who is resident in the Bahamas as a controlling person because not liable for taxes. So there are all sorts of gimmicks and schemes. So you really have to be, aware of how to ensure that your customer and the information on these forms are correct. Okay, and so that's for CRS. And these are going to be the multiple choice questions. With FACA, everybody has to fill out. If you're an individual, it's a W8 Ben. Okay, this is the form, and this is what is very important. Do you see right here where it says revision date July 2017? A lot of people, institutions, they create their own form. So the expiry date could be every 10 years. Right, because normally the lifespan of a form is 10 years, and sometimes the laws change. Like 218, the laws change. But you can create your own form and give it a 10-year expiry date, because what this means is every 3 years, this form has to go out to the client and get their signature back in to make sure the information is up to date. Okay? You don't call it a W8 then, you call it a FACA form. You could create your own FACA form that has all this information right here. You just yes, you put you don't have to do it all for 5 years, but this is expires every 3 years. And so what happens is when the persons who are doing the QI audits, the qualified intermediary audits for the people who are investing in the stock market, you can't be investing in the stock market with an expired form. So this account is blocked until you know what I mean? Of course, we don't ever want to block a client because the client, I could have made $1 million today. It's all sorts of ramifications. So that's a good way to work around it, creating your own internal form, and just copy and paste this and create your own internal form. Royal Bank was sued at one point because a person said in section 9, I certify that the beneficial owner is residently put in the Bahamas. Right? And if you put that you are a resident in the Bahamas, what should be asked for? A residency card, a work permit, something.
Resident documents.
Yeah. Guess what he say? I can bring it back. Just open the account, I can bring it back. No, he never brought it back. 5 years later, it's very, very competitive in the offshore world. It's very, very hard to get these accounts. And then people in the millions, you accommodate them. The central bank allows you like 30 days to get in the original and all the documentation. So we have some documents that are mandatory. Like you cannot open the account without then stuff like this. We say, okay, we'll give you the 30 days because we don't want to lose the business. So 5 years later, we get a subpoena. And they say, how were you investing in the stock market with this American citizen? And we said, no, he's a Bahamian. And they say, okay, send us his citizenship. So of course we call him on the phone right away and we say, hey, Could we have a copy of your citizenship? You say, oh, I had to reply and they did not deny me because I was out on bail. So we got charged with collusion. Okay? Right, right, big fine. So these are very, very important. Okay? And a lot of times people don't even know how they work. They don't check the information. They just see them on the file and they don't know that they expired, that the information is wrong, and what have you. If that's the W8, this is going to be a multiple choice question. W8 is for individuals. W8 then E is for entities. And it's very important. This section 6. This is your chapter.
W8 is individual?
Yeah. It non, let me see, no, foreign individual. Because these forms are for foreigners. Foreign to the US. Yeah, W8 is foreign to the US.
W8 then
E is for a foreign entity to the US. Yeah. Yeah. In chapter 5 status, a lot of companies will come and say, I don't know how to fill out my W8 form, and I don't know how to fill out my CRS form. We are not tax advisors. Okay?
Ms. Bullard?
Yes?
Hi, so I have a question. So I work at a bank and I deal with opening business accounts and personal accounts. And I had a foreigner. He resides in the US. Well, he's working over here now, but I guess he still pays taxes in the US. And we required him to fill out a W-9 form.
Right, because he's a US citizen.
So what's a W-8?
The W-8 is a foreign to the US individual.
Oh,
so if you're from Bahamas, Sweden, Switzerland, Spain, you are foreign to the US. Okay, so you fill out a W-8 and you have to know the right forms. Okay, if you are a foreign entity, not incorporated in the US, then you fill out the W-8 then E. And again, section 5 is always almost wrong. We don't give tax advice. They have to go and pay and get tax advice from their country, because each country is even different. You can't say, oh, I just served the person out of Sweden. Yes, you all do have the same type of company. So no, Sweden is different from Switzerland. It's very, very complex. Do not give tax advice. That's outside of our, knowledge, capacity. So make them ensure that it's checked, and it's if you have doubts, have them bring in a letter from their tax lawyer that's in writing. Yeah, their tax opinion to confirm that they fill the type of entity out correctly, because depending on what type of entity, this form doesn't expire, the banning, or they pay a different amount of tax. So of course everybody's going to go for the lower rate, right? So you want to be careful, very, very careful with these forms, because you will be charged in the US. Okay?
May I ask a question, please, Ms.
Yes, go ahead.
Is it possible that you could combine your account opening documents and then also put the section for the FATCA like on along with the documents? That way you don't have to have the client feeling as though they have to sign so much different things?
Correct, you can do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So once you have that, and then what would be the period of updating?
But you can always do, companies normally say 10 years. But 10 years does not mean that you don't review. Right?
Okay, so you will do your internal review without having sometimes to go to the customer.
Right, right.
Which means that you would put them possibly in LexisNexis or any other type of.
Yeah, so you do all those checks before you approve the account.
Fair enough, fair enough.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and then a W-9 is for a US citizen. Like the lady said, she has a US citizen, and you don't only have to be a citizen. They have something called US Evasion. Meaning, if you have I have a US driver's license, so I don't tell them I have US Evasion, a US telephone number, a US address. And back in the day, for shipping purposes, a lot of us had a US address. You could be liable for taxes, right? But no, we don't spend 183 days. They'd have to do that. That's called the reasonableness test. Okay, Miss Bullitt has a US address and a US license, but let's look at the immigration stamps and a passport. Did she stay in the US for more than 103 days? Okay, so you look for certain indicia to ensure that these persons are not, you give them the right form and they don't evade the taxes. Now, 2017, 18, 19, 2020. So these forms should have expired at the end in December 2020. Right, right. But I looked online and I couldn't find an updated form. So I say, I don't know. I saw something that they said due. I went to the IRS site and they said due to the pandemic, something, something, something. So I was very surprised. And if you look at the back of your book, two of the forms are at the back of your book. Okay, just so you have a closer look. So again, the important thing is to make sure that these are filled out properly. And then foreign individuals to the US versus companies versus individual persons. Again, they'll be the multiple choice questions. Okay.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, W-9 is US citizen. No, foreign to the US. Foreign individuals. W-8 then E is foreign entities, corporations, companies, and W-9 is foreign, it's US citizens or US indicia. And this is the most incorrect question on the exam because everybody's getting mixed up. I'm telling you, because they wouldn't have worked with them, so they are familiar. But you work with it for years, so you know. Okay, so any questions? Ms. Bullitt been talking long. Any questions? Okay, we talked about the Bahamas making it a predicate crime. We talked about it in the penal code. We know that Carl Bethel was just on the news in December saying, oops, we gotta make sure that it's updated to include a predicate crime around the world, not just in the Bahamas. We know the difference between tax avoidance and tax evasion. When we go back to Miami again, we filling out those forms correctly. Because for years, we should have been in jail, right? Okay. And then again, we know that persons, we were attractive because I didn't have to pay US tax of 30%. I could just put my money in the Bahamas. I didn't have to pay up to 35% in Canada, but gone are those days. Okay. And we are getting hit left, right, and center after the OECD made a mistake and they blacklisted us in May of 2018. And Peter Turnquest lashed out at them and said, it seems like you're just trying to wipe out my economy or my banking sector. Then they said, okay, we won't blacklist you any longer. The individual countries will blacklist you. And of course, like I said, same players. So immediately the president of France, immediately the Netherlands, immediately Germany, everybody's, and all of them were talking about taxes. No, they came and don't come up in these conversations. When this first came out, Cayman was listed and the UAE was listed that says non-reciprocal. You send us the information, we'll keep it, but we're not sending you anything. Same thing with the US. You must send us the information. We're not sending you anything because you're not going to wipe out our financial services sector. That's life. Just so you would know. Okay. Any other questions or concerns? Do we have the gist of taxes? We understand how they work. We know the importance. We ain't gonna let the FNM or the PLP come around and tell us one or the other go raise the tax, the VAT, because we know it have to raise. Right. Which will still be lower than many other countries.
Miss Bullitt, would you be able to speak some more to this OECD body, and if they're still even important?
Okay, let me see what can I say about the OECD. Let me see what in my head. I gotta calculate it. Okay. So the Organization of Economic something. Hold on. Let me see. Organization for Cooperation and Economic Development. I think the FATF sits is housed in the same building as the OECD. The OECD is like the parent, and the FATF is the child, upcoming. So all of these international bodies, they work together, um, and they said, what does it say, under the Marshall Plan for the reconstruction of the European countries after the Second World War, they were to administer American and Canadian aid, and so it exists to act as a forum for researching, developing, and refining economic and social policies on a range of issues, and have often been regarded as an exclusive club reserved for the world's most developed economies. Money laundering and harmful tax practices are two issues in which the OECD has taken a significant interest. Yeah, so again, an international body, again, on those, every year there are positions available. Payments can apply, but nobody has. Kevin Major is now the chairman of the UN. Carl Bethel is the chairman of the CFATF, which is the Caribbean FATF. So again, now we have a seat at the table. Now we have representation. They act just like the board of any company. When there's an issue, there has to be a vote on what is to be done. And of course, if there's nobody from the Bahamas, a small country that we voting against, when they say the Bahamas has $8 billion worth of offshore funds. Oh, of course you need that back in your country, and because if they repatriate that money back home, that goes into the economy, okay, and then they receive different fees from that. Right now, the Bahamas receiving the fees. So of course, yes, let's attack the Bahamas. They have had secrecy laws for years. We need that money back home.
But the thing about it is too, Miss Bullet, a lot of Bahamians who are educated are living offshore, contributing to other economies. And it's because they are upset with what's going on at home that they sort of quote unquote turn their back, and they only would come back after retirement when they don't want to suffer the cold in that other country or wherever they were.
Agreed. Agreed. There are no opportunities here.
Yeah, but Miss Dawson, Miss Bullet, I'm disagreeing with that based on, first of all, what I saw was going on at the seminar today. I think that's been a common trend. And most Bahamians who are abroad, when they come back, man, I sick and tired of this place. Y'all still dealing with these same things from when I left. And that's what people say. But at the same time, people here are doing things, I would say, underneath the cover of darkness, and then you only see it when it's already brought to light.
Right. Okay, but again, for persons to come back home, there needs to be more opportunities. I support persons staying after college, stay 5 years and learn and get some expert training and come back and bring that. Because I feel that, I grew up in Royal Bank 16 years, and I think Canadian training is excellent. At one point, we only had what Canada did. And then we found that a lot of the laws were different. And so I worked on projects to, bridge the gaps. I had to change all those Canadian policies and procedures based on what Bahamian law says. And I'm very happy that I, took part in that. So I was able to see where the gaps were, where the law needed to change it, what we needed to do, and then push through the associations to advocate for change. But a lot, first they say Bahamians are not educated. Bahamians are very educated.
Extremely educated.
Extremely educated. There are no opportunities, so they are forced to go to Canada and forced to go to the UK and stay for 20 or 30 years and contribute to that economy because there are no opportunities here. Okay,
so
and
then
so we need total reform. The government needs to find a way to attract the Bahamians to come back home.
Yeah, because even the lady who was like a hot topic during COVID, Miss Dahl or whoever she is, and I shouldn't say it in that way, but I mean, I saw a whole write-up on her in the paper in terms of her education and how she got what she got and all the accolades or whatever like that. But the woman is very well educated. And the only reason why she was brought up from underneath wherever she was is because, okay, that now there's a national crisis. So the reactiveness is really what's causing the problem, but there's economic wealth and the intellectual abilities of the people.
Correct. But even in the offshore banks, I've seen, the CEO always had to come from Switzerland or the UK. And let me tell you, those ones in the last couple of years have been trash, complete trash. Very uneducated. They don't know how to treat people, and they weren't even business savvy. So
But do you
I
know,
used to say I don't understand how they even qualified for the position.
they
But then I
qualified
started
for
to
the
look at them
position?
differently because I said they're getting housing, school fee for children, and they live out life a key. They have to have some type of, I started to look at them differently. And I said, I must need to be the Minister of Immigration. I don't know, because in all the offshore banks, if you look at, there's a foreigner at the helm. And even when I always say this, I have no problem with foreigners. You can come in and make a contribution. In fact, we need foreigners to build up, to pay more taxes. But the problem is we don't collect any tax. So so they send it home. So you look at Western Union line, always book out because the money going back out the country. So a moratorium needs to be placed there and make some of this money. No, for true, you have to keep the money in the country. You can't have Western Union cash and going out the door all day long. That's money going out the country. So we need to look into that. Then, like I said, they wouldn't give a Bahamian living or school fees or $100,000, but these people that come in from Switzerland, the UK, whatever, very unqualified, and they get that. So the training is supposed to be, every expat is supposed to train a Bahamian for 3 years and leave. That's the limit, 3 years. In Cayman, the limit is 7 years and you leave. There's nobody in Cayman that can give you a work permit beyond 7 years. That's airtight.
Well, Miss Bullard, oh, sorry, someone was talking. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know but I know the 3 years is not being withheld, and the ones that they are bringing in now, they can't train, because we like Symphony is saying, we have the qualified Bahamians here, but we just can't get those. We can't get the top positions for some reason. I don't understand it. So there needs to be reform. What I was saying is, I see at these Fortune 500 companies, the CEO is a regulated function. Think about it. If you leave the Bahamas for 10 years and you come back, you could find a job right away. Okay, so what these CEOs do is they come in and they see Trinidad. They say, okay, it could be cheaper to do this in Trinidad. So they outsource all the functions to Trinidad and Dominican Republic. And so when they go back home, they're seen as a god. They see like, you brought so much business or so many functions and services to the country. Yeah, of course we can hire you. They can put all of that on their resume. But Central Bank and the Securities Commission, they are approving these senior officials. So when this man sitting down, if you say head of Scotiabank, and where you from, Barbados or Trinidad, you advocating for Trinidad. You not advocating for the Bahamas.
Well, Miss.
Yeah, but see all of this now. You see it in the masses, because I guess they're just looking for you to qualify. They don't know that these people have an agenda. They don't know that, but I mean, from the number of outsourcing that has occurred, the number of banks that Royal Bank's been around for 108 years, and the first time they ever closed down was 5 years ago when they closed Bay and Vic, because everything had been outsourced to the Dominican Republic. Again, this is why we need this position, because we are going to say, when it comes to cost-saving initiatives, the first preference is to outsource it to my country where I come from. That wouldn't be, we're going to find another way to decrease costs, save jobs, and decrease the cost. Not outsource it to Jamaica, outsource it to Trinidad. To me, Scotiabank is a shell bank. All the decisions, when I was at Royal Bank, I could sign unlimited. Scotiabank, the managers in the branch could only sign up to $5,000. What is $5,000? What is the power is who controls the money. That money is controlled in Jamaica.
But Miss Bullard, I have a friend that it's a big executive up to Scotiabank, right? And she's not Bahamian, right? And you know what her report to me was what she got from from her whole analysis, Bahamians are lazy.
Okay.
This is what she told me with her own mouth. And
Bahamians are
I
lazy.
sat there,
Okay, and I could
but hold
agree.
on, Miss Fuller. I sat there in that chair and I wanted to give her, you know, if I could have found the quickest from, I would have slapped her side of her face.
No,
You understand
no,
where
no,
I'm
no,
coming from?
no.
But,
No,
but I had,
Bahamians are lazy. You know
no,
what
but
somebody
she
told me?
she told me what they were doing. And I said, you know something? I said, that's true, you know. We might have the education and we might be together. But when it comes to actually doing what the man from Switzerland is going to do to appears though he's doing something on his job, we don't have that skill together.
No, I do agree that now we are a much wealthier country. And so therefore, there are some jobs that Bahamians will not do. And so this is where the foreigners come in place, because you do need people to clean the yards. You do need people to do, you know what I mean? And there are foreigners, like I said, that make a contribution. However, it should not be the majority. That's my thing. And then that foreigner should not be at Western Union sending 80% of their salary back to wherever they come from. The same thing with the Chinese. We need a seat at the table, because if you look at Scotiabank and you look at Royal Bank and you see who is at the helm and who's made the decision, okay, we got to cut costs, it's a pandemic. Their first way to cut costs is to outsource it to their country. That's ludicrous. And central bank has to approve that outsourcing. When we was at Royal Bank, we used to pay Cayman $200,000 to do data processing. We didn't have qualified people. $40,000 is a data processor salary or less. We paying them $200,000, and the amount of errors and the foolishness that we had to go through for the work that they did, they needed to pay us. They lost $400,000 with the back and forth of trying to tell Cayman, you made this mistake, reverse this. The same thing with Scotia and Jamaica. You get all the information, you have to upload it to Jamaica. This missing, that missing, or they gotta come back and forth, and only Jamaica could approve it. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, IBC too. They outsource Jamaica and Barbados.
That's ridiculous. And then listen to me. Okay, these outsourcing contracts is $1 million, 200,000, 300,000. I said, listen, I could hire 2 Bahamians or 2 people who are in the Bahamas. I don't care if you what nationality you are, but being in the Bahamas, contributing, you have to pay rent, you have to eat, right? It ain't like the Chinese living off of 20%, sending 80% back to China, so the next Chinese family can come. Okay, but no, they rather pay $400,000 to Cayman. So Cayman's economy, or $1 million to Trinidad, $1 million Dominican Republic, because their salaries are so much less. And that's what we have to stop. That's where the billions of dollars in outsourced functions go. And that's why all those banks close down. With all these data centers, they outsource our IT to India. My God, nobody did understand. I thought there was a language barrier. The system was always down. Every time you call, you on hold for an hour. And then when you talk to the person, you have to talk to the person for 2 hours to find out, so what you say? Type it. What you mean? What? What they say. Again, I realized it when my manager outsourced IT to the Channel Islands, and they were 5 hours behind us. Okay, and then you know what he said? Because he had, when his contract was up here, where else he was going back home? He was going back home. Okay, it isn't. He do that for his own sake, and then said, "Oh, Miss Bullock, can you hire 5 people in the Channel Islands to do the IT?" I said, you crazy?" And they look at me sideways. So now it was time for me to go home because I have too much to say. And that's why I say the regulators have to get involved, because we have the money. We have some opportunities. However, when we approve that function, the other person may be qualified, but who are they advocating for? What's their ulterior motive? Not to make Scotiabank in the Bahamas the best bank in the world. He looking to see when my work permit up, what I done put in place for home, so people would remember who I am.
That I've been working in the Bahamas at this level.
And outsource. Yes.
Go back home, I'm going back now as a
president, yeah, and I outsource all these functions. I got all these jobs, and they put it on their resume. 15,000 jobs because of my outsourcing to the Trinidad. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so anyway, sorry for Miss Bolivia. You're still there, or you're just shut me out? Symphony, you
I'm still
still there?
here. No, I'm
It's
still
still
here.
here.
I'm listening.
Okay,
I'm
so we
listening.
need a seat at the table, and we need a reform. I mean, there's so many areas in this country. I need each one of you. You know what we need? We don't need. I'm sorry, I don't support Lincoln and his foolishness, because he getting up like Reynard Rigby. He do one walk out to what that was. They walk from um fish ride to Rawson Square, and then he became a senator. The same thing with Lincoln. I think Lincoln, guess what? He done run under the FNM and run under the DNA. So what we need is lobbyists. You know, that's what they have. Lobbyists are the people that keep the government. Henfield, yeah, Reynard Henfield. Lobbyists are people that keep the governments accountable. You know,
Well,
they follow everything that they do. They keep these corporations accountable, and we don't have lobbyists. We have somebody who's come on the internet and scream for a while, and everybody is talk about it on Facebook. What does it do?
but the thing about it is, Miss Bullard, do you know that if, let's just say, I don't know how much the Department of Immigration makes, right? But possibly they're saying that they're making more money off of immigration fees than educating Bahamians. So they probably saying, okay, well, if we're making, for the sake of this discussion, $1,000 a year to from immigration fees for the whole country, but in order to educate Bahamians, we have to spend $3,000 a year, along with any other additional costs relating to that. They probably might say, well, hey, let's keep getting this $1,000, because at the end of the day, we're not at loss too. So
yeah, but I don't. COB is free right
no,
now.
Miss COB. But what I'm saying, Miss
Or Miss
Miss Bullet, we don't have a culture of being. Let me say the word. Do you say consistent with stuff? Like honestly, in my studies abroad, I've seen the way that parents almost like beating their child to learn what they have to learn because they recognize the value of globalization. And so I think here in the Bahamas, I'm not saying that parents aren't doing the same, but in terms of it being a united effort whereby education is the number one thing that you're going to have to be doing so that you can be competitive, I don't think that's where it's really at, generation after generation. And so that's the reason why when the expert approaches and he has all his cards on the table, whether he can do them or not, he is well more qualified than the Bahamian. And so the permit is granted.
Okay, but I don't ever think that invested in your people, these fees that they collect. And I you know, when I used to pay fees for the CEO, we pay $18,000 or $20,000. That's what I'm trying to say in fees, but that cannot. The person who is a Bahamian who is going to live in your country and make $100,000, and that's going to stay in your country. That $100,000 made by a Swiss person or another nationality is going to go. 50% of that is going to go back to their country because we don't have a proper tax system in place. VAT was for years before VAT. The entire some people come here and they don't bring their families. They could send 80% back, and that's what the Chinese do. They live on 20%, and they save 80%, or they send it back for the next Chinese family. Okay, and so that's what I say. We have to stop the money going out of the country. That's all. I fine, bring the expat because he have all his ducks in a row, but stop him from sending that money back home. And essentially, that's all he come here for.
How do you, I'm trying to figure
And educate, spend the money on educating the Bahamians in the long-term effect.
But Miss Bullard, I have
we will build up our own country when we sit in those meetings. I've been in many of those meetings where the first thing they say is outsource, and I said no. We could train, we could send them to school, we could implement the system, and I've seen it done before, and they say no. They don't even want to hear you because they have an agenda. That's what I'm saying. So we need sufficient people to be on these boards. We need sufficient people to have a seat at the table. And we need to stop talking. Look at all these good ideas you have, Symphony. You got to get out there and make some of these things happen.
Ms. Bullard, I agree with you.
Always do is talk. Yeah, and I do agree. Some Bahamians are lazy. I wouldn't get mad if a foreigner says that. Some Bahamians are lazy. You know, a contractor spoke to me, he said, I hired 800 people to work at Bahama on the construction site. He said, 100 didn't show up to work. 50 show up high. The next 50 only work half a day, and I had to keep talking to them back. And he said, when he looked at who it was the Bahamians. So we do have a lot of systemic issues that need to be fixed. Certain time they work in because they're a little bit more desperate. We are too cushioned. We go up too rich. We too privileged. Yeah, we didn't really know about a real struggle like what a Jamaican or a Haitian know about. And so that struggle is make you stronger. Sorry to say.
I
What
agree.
Bahamian could weed? Could weed? You get classes grow every 2 weeks, but none of us could weed. No, be laughing. You know how much money in landscaping.
They're too prideful.
The Haitian done Bahamianize. I tell a Bahamian the other day, half Haitian Bahamian. I said, "You're the only Haitian I know who can't weed." No, they Bahamianize. Yeah. So that I would agree to a certain extent, but again, please let's just stop talking about all these things and let's make some things happen. We need lobbyists. We need people to hold these politicians. If we paying 15%, the money I need to be able to go to Princess Margaret Hospital. I don't need to pay 15% and still need private insurance.
Well, I mean, Miss Bullard, I mean, like when I lived abroad, right? One of the biggest things that what I found was helping to keep the people accountable was the fact that the taxation was actually enforced. So the thing about it is, if you were actually seriously getting away with tax evasion, like you said, your network had to be really strong. Because every time we would get in conversations, you know, you say you don't talk about religion, politics, and other things, they would always say we don't talk about tax. Because that was always something that they was annoyed by. So
okay, but you don't get annoyed when it's effective.
Well, see,
then you don't
about,
fall in a pothole every 5 miles.
I agree with you, but
when
at the
the
end of the
electricity
day,
can stay on. I mean, I guess
yeah. At the end of the day,
when the average ain't the average, when your children can go safely to school, I don't have a problem.
Yeah.
I don't, you know, and then we need to educate people to say, do you not see the difference? But we need the difference to be made first. And then people will be supportive.
Well, I mean, I agree with you. And I mean, the thing about it is when I went to go and look for a job, the only reason why I got a job is because what I was able to bring to the table at that particular time. But I mean, other than that, I would be seen as, well, would you coming in my country to get something from me for? Yeah. And so I think that we have a foreign attitude whereby we think buying Bahamian is a waste of time.
Well, the service level is buying Bahamian is so low that's what is discouraged, you know, a lot of people. So we need to upgrade our customer service because people just get fed up with the level of service. I buy something out of Walmart, it was the wrong thing. I open it, I take it back. The package was open. Walmart take it back. I get my money back. I could go buy the right thing. But the Bahamas, no refund, no this. Jesus, you ever, Kelly, is you stand on a line for 3 hours, giving them your life. You don't even bring the thing home. At least Kelly said, take it back. Right, it's crazy. So, yeah, for what? A lot of things need to change. AID is Bahamian. Kelly is Bahamian to it. Yeah, so a lot, like I say, so much things need to fix, and we have good ideas, and we have all of you upcoming future leaders. Please put pen to paper, put some action in place, and stop. Let's just talking about the good ideas and make it happen. Do a needs assessment. Like I said, thank you. Who was it that talked about the garbage? You know, people was like, oh my God, she talking about the garbage, but that's $1 billion industry, and we don't have it here yet. Okay, and so gone are the days of these 9-to-5 jobs. Technology is taking over. I always ask my students, when the robots take over, what are humans gonna do? Okay, so find the essential services and find things. We always have garbage once humans alive. So that's the next $1 billion industry. Okay, so attend these stuff, and so very good that you attended that, Renelle, and you shared. Thank you very much for that. Put it on your list. Look into it. You could make lots of money. Okay. Okay. So sorry, guys, for y'all who said we gone south. I hope this was informative and beneficial. Any more questions on taxation?
It always is.
Okay, yeah, but we want to be more than just, compliance officers. We have to ensure the entire, organization is compliant, and all of us don't work in banks, and so we have to diversify a little bit and talk about, the country, and this may help us make better decisions, within our organizations. Okay, so I hope some of you sleep and say, Miss Bullet, just go too fast out.
Miss
I hope
Bullet, I
it's
enjoy
beneficial.
having these conversations.
Okay, thank you, Renelle. Thank you. So do
I really look forward to it though.
Good, and I hope that I given you all 5 years, and I want to see you all on the TV saying I the minister this and that the next thing, and you calling out to this. Why I say form the WhatsApp group. You call out to these people. These people will help you. Yeah. Okay, Leslie, we're running for Foxhill in 2027. You can need us, Leslie. You have to start now. And each politician needs 3 people, somebody to be in the limelight, somebody to write those speeches, and other person for support. You need 3 strong people behind you to make you successful. Okay, and then all of us to support you.
I'll vote for Symphony.
Sorry?
Yes, I second that.
Symphony any day.
I second that.
Okay, good for Truby. If it's only us, if we don't stand up to the plate, somebody else will. And then guess what? They could be mad. Look what the foreigners do. Look what this is. They take over. Nobody else do it. The Republicans say they have to run Donald Trump. There's nobody else.
But Ms. Bullard, you know what the issue is too? In the government, they don't want to grant these things to Bahamians. They prefer to grant it to the foreigners because they want to put that money in their own pocket. So that's where the downfall comes in a lot. You have a lot of young Bahamians out there with bright ideas, and they present it to the government. The government shuts them down, and then they go and outsource it from different countries, and then they bring it back here as if it was their idea and sell it to the Bahamian people.
Yeah, agreed. There are a lot of reasons why, but we need to handle one issue at a time and fix it. We cannot give up. I can only, when you say that, and I agree with you 100%, I can only think about Colonel Sanders' KFC. I must be hungry. But KFC, no, he was turned down 1,022 times. Okay? And now look at KFC. The man from Disney was told he wasn't creative enough. Okay, Alibaba, the new upcoming Chinese eBay, Chinese Amazon was told he was not qualified to work at KFC. Now he have the Chinese word equivalent to Amazon. 8th richest man in the world. So we are afraid to fail, and we are afraid of rejection. So stop being afraid to fail. Stop being afraid of rejection. Okay. And when one person turn you down, you start over. Just like relationships, if your husband leave you or your boyfriend leave you, you say that's it, and no more dating, I give up. No,
yeah,
you find out what is wrong. Not if you below 20. I sure you broke up with somebody in your 20s. You didn't give up on relationship. You say I'll invest in myself for a while till I find somebody else and start over. Same way. Same way. Once you have life, you could do anything. Okay, life and health, you could do anything. Okay, yes, Symphony.
Okay.
I just gotta get this number down. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, so please let's stop talking, Miss Bullet Maura. I need some action, please. I need my network. I don't have any of these MPs in my network because I just can't deal with them. Okay, so I need some new people. So I can send my children to, I can say, Jack, go right down there to Leslie. Just tell Danielle, Miss Bullet send you. And you're all straight. Okay, good. So please, y'all, let's continue on. Let's support each other. Let's make some of these things happen because we are the future leaders. Okay? Great. Great. Okay, so I think I take up all your homework time even. Okay. But those
you right
questions,
on time.
yeah, questions easy. And if you have any questions, remind me before I get into the lecture next week for us to go through them to make sure everybody on the same track. Okay?
You right on time.
Okay, great. Okay. All right, so y'all have a productive week and remember to watch Netflix. Leslie telling me now the different stories to create awareness. And organize yourself, try and get the uninterrupted time, and try to relax and unwind because there's a lot to digest, and you can't just you know what should I say? I want you to be able to retain it and understand it and apply it. I don't want you to just hear what Miss Bullet say. I have such a good memory, but you all have excellent memory. Some of y'all is quote Miss Bullet in the exam. Miss Bullet said in class number 3, I don't want the memory. I want the understanding. Okay, and I want us all to make a difference. Okay. Okay, so you all have a productive week, and I hope you'll get some rest and a chance to unwind, and we come back refreshed next week. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so have a great week.
Hello.
Hi.
Sorry, one last point. The WhatsApp group. I had amended the WhatsApp group and I added some persons.
Okay.
We have like 12 people added, but I know there's like 20 people in the class. So if anybody else wants to be a part of the WhatsApp group, you can just drop your number in the comment section before you leave.
Okay, so before I sign out. Okay. Oh, you didn't get it. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, and you gave me an email last week. Did you get it? You got it. Okay.
Oh yeah, Mr. Biller, don't forget to send the update.
Okay, yeah, and I'll send the update to everybody. And if you all don't get it by tomorrow, then email me and say I didn't receive it, please. The update to the mutual evaluation. Yeah. Anybody? Okay.
No, I think you have to.
No, for your youth group. Your phone number. WhatsApp. You putting it in the chat or you add now?
I put it in the group.
Or you was an user admin. Oh, okay, good.
No, I'm not an admin. She just created the group.
Okay, so put in Danielle. Okay.
Danielle. D-A-N-I-E-L-L-E. 423. Sorry, 423. 0224.
No, we finished. We just waiting on the numbers. So everybody would have gotten all the numbers, because I know once I end the chat, or everything will disappear.
Oh, okay. Let me I got I think I heard Danielle. Name
The
being
chat will still
in the background.
even though I'm the host, they put me as the host now. Yeah.
You just get Cassie.
Donna, he's putting them in the group too.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, Meryl, did you get to say what you wanted to say? I read your email and then it just went south, and I saw your text. Meryl's still there or she left already?
She left.
Okay, so next week remind me to start with Meryl, please. Just in case you didn't get, just say what you wanted to.
You like in introduction part, you have a sheet, a study sheet that we could all you're gonna get without, I guess.
Yeah, when we do review. Yeah, yeah.
You need to get that stuff a little earlier.
If you want it early, that's fine.
Yes, I will start on that tomorrow.
Okay, that's fine. Writing in your 10-point say.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, yes.
That's
The
fine.
earlier the better, I mean.
Okay, yeah.
So the 5 points, just, oh, you're not attend the seminar or something.
Mm-hmm. And the whole point is to network. So I don't want you to attend and not introduce yourself and not get some numbers to say, I will attend again, or we could meet up, or what have you. Because you want to be around like-minded people who will help you on this journey. You know, no man is an island. And if we're truly going to make a difference, we need enough support to make the difference.
Miss
Yeah.
Bullard.
Miss Bullard,
Hi.
do I still get my 10% for subscribing to the social medias?
What do you mean if you would get your 10% for subscribing? What do you mean?
And that's a part of it?
You mean for the different subscriptions to the regulators and stuff?
Yes.
Yeah, but I mean, you have to share, you have to say that there was an article or you saw the news or something to that. Once you share, you should get it. I have you down for your 5% tonight. But your 10%, you have to participate in the classes, like at least 4 classes.
I just checked.
And you normally do.
The newspaper is
just checked
10%.
it.
Yeah, Renelle, you know you straight.
Miss Bullard,
You
the
know that.
newspaper is 10% or 5%?
Sorry, Cassandra, I didn't hear you.
The newspaper reading is 10% or 5%?
Yeah, the newspaper reading contributes towards your class participation 10%.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and last semester I had to deduct points because I had written down, oh, Cassandra gave us a nice speech, and then towards the end, we never have Cassandra no more. So Sandra, I just used you. Sorry, I didn't, not that it was actually you. You know, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so make sure you don't get points taken off in Miss Bullet. I have a couple names down already, but don't lose any points towards the end. And I sure everybody saw they were very beneficial.
Yes.
Yes. You sat comfortably in that exam.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. Great. Yeah. And you got those A's. I had a lot. They say, Miss Bullet, you sure? I say, send it to the cross marker, let the cross marker check. You know, so I was very pleased. Yeah. Very pleased.
I don't want to say it was easy, but I think you did a good job preparing us.
Okay, good. So I got put it up a notch.
Oh, no, I'm saying that.
Put it up.
It
Now
wasn't
that I
easy.
see some of you getting 100% and stuff, I gotta make sure you know.
No, these homework questions, nah, they ain't as easy as the intro
it's
one.
a bit tougher, and that's why I want you all to get the practice. And again, if you get that practice in, when you get to that exam, you'll be like, this is a breeze again. Yeah, it's very achievable. Okay, so we got all the numbers?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. So you all have a pleasant evening, and we'll do this again next week.
All right.
Okay,
Lovely,
good night.
lovely. Good night.
Good night.
Symphony, I gotta drive home and unwind, and then I'll call you.
No problem. Sounds
Yeah.
good.
Okay.
Okay.